Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I don't think, what to do, gentlemen? Oh, I had to go butter some bread, as it were. Hmm. Nothing better than fresh baguette. Hmm. It is fire. This week, I become another year older, as they say. Yeah, I know. What a- Yeah, I turn a year older this week. I mean, doesn't really amount for much nowadays. When you get to a certain age, who really gives a shit? It's not like you get presents or something. But I'm a year older. Does mean something as far as that goes. Mm, thank you. Hmm. I don't know if you guys watched that whole Huckabee interview, but hmm, that guy is probably going to be known as Mike Huckabee or Cuckabee for literally the rest of his life and beyond. Like, because that's what he is. As far as I know, yes, he is. The shit's live. That's what's playing in the background here. All of this business. Hmm. Also, from what I understand, he's doing the State of the Union live tomorrow as well, which is pretty neat. I'll do that as well. But yeah, today isn't my birthday, but will be this week. Would have been badass to have been born on leap year. Fuck, that would have been cool. Been born on Feb 29th. Oh, I mean, that's like that would be like the legitimate coolest day possible. But I mean, there's Christmas too, but I actually have a cousin that was born on Christmas. I mean, a lot of people get that. Yeah, I think the Christian Zionist thing, I do believe that that shit is done. I'm pretty sure. It just seems like the way things have been going, people like before people just went along with it because, why not? But now that all this stuff is happening, like with that Carrie Prejean Bowler, like these people are really. Oh, I'm muted. Of course I am. I'm not muted. Oh, the background is muted. Yeah, that's because he plays fucking music, and it will give me it will take the stream down or some shit. But that Carrie Prejean Bowler, that woman, that Catholic woman that got uh called an anti-Semite for not being Zionist, that's going to open a lot of people's eyes. People are not just going to they're not just going to be Zionists or say it's fine, or oh, it's fine for them to have their own place for no reason. They're going to have to actually be pro Zionist. And cuz right for a while people were pro Zionist without really even understanding what that meant. What's going on there, Goldie? But I think these Zionists and the Israelis and these Jays, I think they've really made some poor decisions. I mean, it seems like they just don't know how to deal with white people, American people, because they really have stepped on their own dick. I mean, I don't see any other way to put it. Things didn't have to be this way. It's like they forced them to be this way because they insist. Yeah, I mean, truly, they insist for things to be the way they are. It's like they've unmasked themselves as being these douchebags that are going to tell us how things are going to be. And, because most of the time they could have got us on their side, but they've started to take that for granted, started to tell us what we are and aren't going to do and how we're going to feel about things. And that's the last thing you want to do to Americans. And they're used to having, control of our government to a degree, and they've been paying off uh, politicians. But that's all good and well. What's going on there, Seraphim? That's all good and well when the people don't know any better, or the people aren't, they're not against it. They're not, you know, on a neutral basis, like people just were for Israel before. No reason why not, or why. There's no real reason. It's just kind of going with the flow. But they've made this stink. They've made a true stink of anybody who disagrees, anybody who says anything but yes sir or thank you sir, may I have another. And that's really going to fuck them in the long run. Like they're not going to get away with this. They're not going to continue with things like this. And it once it reaches a terminal velocity, the money that APAC gives to our politicians, the politicians are going to give that shit back because it's going to be toxic to have anything to do with APAC. It's going to become toxic. For the last 20 years, people didn't think anything of it. But now that they've become Nazis, truly Nazis, if you don't conform, if you don't do what we say, if you don't accept what we give you, we're just going to crush you. That's the way they've been doing business. And people have finally woken up to that with Massey, with this Prejean Bowler, Carrie Prejean Bowler, all of these different situations. And now it's gonna be fucking toxic to take money from these scumbags. It's gonna be toxic to to have literally anything to do with Israel. I mean, they really fucked themselves. At least I hope. But to me, I don't see who in America has a real stake, a real dog in that fight. Almost none of us have a dog in that fight. But, you know, we've been propagandized to think that they're a good ally and, that they're a part of the West and this and that. Well, all that's bullshit and everybody knows it now. And now these politicians have no reason to support them anymore. And voters are going to hold them to account about it. It's like Israel, you kind of just push your number one advocate away. If they had just left things the way they were and not tried to twist our arm, things would be the same. But they just it's like it's like they seen an opportunity like, "Oh, if we don't do it now," they're willing to sacrifice our ally or us as an ally for some short-term goal that they have. Now, I could see that I could see them sacrificing us as an ally if they were able to secure the Middle East, greater Israel, like right now, lock it down and secure it. I could see them, because that's the way they are, sacrificing us as an ally, but they're not even close to that. Like, what were they thinking? You know, maybe they're thinking that it doesn't matter what the citizens of America think, but they're mistaken. They're very much so mistaken. This stuff, these people, they're going to be toxic, man. They're going to be untouchable. If it's known that a politician has taken money from these people, that's going to be like a death sentence. It's going to be the kiss of death. And they've done this to themselves. They've truly done it to themselves. They can blame nobody but themselves for what they've done. And they've had us propagandized since since World War II, I feel like, but for a long time, decades. And it wasn't good enough. Like, what the hell is these people are that greedy? That, they're that big of J's that, they just didn't know when to stop. And now every day, more and more Americans are like, fuck those people. And, I never thought anything. For years, I didn't think anything of it. But it's this last couple years, their belligerence has really opened a lot of people's eyes. And they're gonna pay for it. I to be honest, I don't think they're long for this earth. I don't think Israel's gonna be around for that much longer. The only reason, and maybe they'll go find another patron, somebody to protect them and take care of them. But I just don't see that happening. Who is going to protect them and go to bat for them like us, like how we have done? And they might still get this, they'll probably still get this war with Iran out of us. But by the next election, it's going to be crystal clear that these people are are toxic. They're the kiss of death. You know, it's a lot of people have woken up since Trump got elected, uh since that election. And they might get away with quite a bit in the next 2 or 3 years, but they're fucked. I mean, I just don't see how they can fix what they've done. I don't see it. How they can turn this around, how they can get us back on their side. I mean, am I wrong here? What do you guys think? It just seems to me like they fucked themselves really well because they had they had a gravy train with biscuit wheels and they that's gone. What's going on, Big Cat? How you doing, Big Dog? Big I called him Big Dog. His name is Big Cat. Shit, that's funny. No, they're screwed. They they've fucked up a good thing, man. All this genocide and shit, it has woken a lot of people up. And it wasn't that long ago when when you had the left and right was in lockstep over Israel. Lockstep, man. It was both sides. But they destroyed whatever they had in the left when I don't know what exactly what it was that killed their image with the Democrats. Maybe it was the Palestinian, I don't know. But all this butchery, it just the propaganda isn't good enough to make people ignore what they see with their own eyes. I mean, it works for a little while, but like 70,000 people, like me, I didn't realize what was going on until this summer, maybe the end of this summer. But, I remember thinking to myself, like, man, this butchery that happened in Israel, these guys break through and attack people. But even then, I didn't think, well, now they get to just fucking turn Gaza into a parking lot. Like they're going to do what they're going to do. But after it started getting to the point where they had tens of thousands of people killed and half the people in Gaza are children, you have to, you, the calculus starts changing. And then the way they treated people, like I started seeing these little things that, that's funny. I would see, them. Like, I'd see, like, a kid flicking, a kid being escorted through the Gaza, flicking all the Palestinians off, just weird little things that caused me like, that's weird. That's really odd. Wonder why they're doing that. And then, that just kept happening until it finally clicked, and I'm thinking, "Wow, these fucking people are scum." And a lot of people have come to this conclusion in the last year. A lot of people. And I feel bad for the folks out there that have known this for years and have been screaming from the rooftops about it. And uh, many of us, it fell on deaf ears. I wish I had listened sooner. But it's kind of like everything else. You got kind of have to come to it on your own. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Hey, what's going on, Silvio? Appreciate you joining us. You can't make a horse drink. And that's how it was when I was on drugs. That's how that's just how life is. You can't force people into things. But man, Israel, they have done a bang up job at destroying their own reputation. Tell me, I mean, have they not? It's been incredible. Like, bro, it's almost like they just decided we don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. We're just going hard. It really blows my mind. Like, how is it since World War II, they didn't do anything like that. And then all of a sudden, in these last few years, they're just like, fuck it. Fuck it. We're going whole hog. I mean, what is it they thought they were going to get by pushing like this, pushing so hard? They got us to go into Iraq. That still wasn't good enough. Like, I wonder if they see it as like an all or nothing enterprise. Like either they get all of Greater Israel or they may as well not even be a country. I wonder if that's how they see it because I feel like, man, they've taken a huge chance with what they've done. And it's not like they own the Middle East or something. It's not like they've destroyed all of their enemies. Like, I just don't get it, man. What, like, they must know something that we don't, maybe, or something. I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, they need Iran taken out. But even if Iran is defanged, the Saudi Arabia, they still have nukes. Like, I don't get it. I don't know. Either they're extremely stupid or extremely clever. And if they're extremely clever, I mean, they must know shit that nobody else knows because it just seems like they've been just stepping on their dick one one day after or one thing after another. Like it's awful. If I can find something to watch real quick while we're waiting for Nick. Second. And I wish I could have finished the fucking Mike Huckabee shit. It was so fire. It was such a good uh it was such an excellent interview. Maybe I'll just throw it on now. Because all they do is they just make it to where you can't see my feed. That's what kind of pisses me off. Is like Tucker right here. He did Tucker. I may as well have been in that interview because he hit every single point that I wanted to have hit. I mean, come on, guy. Give it up for put a one in the chat. Did Tucker not just nail this fucker to the wall? I mean, on every point, he didn't let that son of a bitch fucking wiggle out of anything. He got every lick in on this guy, on Israel, basically. He got all the licks in on Israel. Like, how, you're saying that you have this moral right because of the Bible. Well, who's to say that you're the people from the Bible? Like, why don't we do some DNA testing? But it's funny because they want to make it seem like everything's settled. But when you say, well, we have science, we have, we can test this. Let's test it. They don't want nothing to do with that shit. No, 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 no. We don't need to do all that. Oh, I see. Oh, hang on. I put it on. I just forgot to do the screen cap. Right. And fucking Netanyahu is not even a
He has
fucking
fought for the land. His family has fought for the land.
Dodging a
No, I'm not
very
doesn't even-
obvious question,
he's
which
not
is
even
where does this rate
religious.
come
He's
from?
an atheist.
And the reason it's
given you
meaningful
that
is
answer.
because there are a lot of people in the territory that Israel controls today, particularly in the West Bank, who, through genetic testing, we can know their families have been here for thousands of years.
Yeah.
We don't know whether they practiced Judaism, whether they were Samaritans,
But that's 11
pre-Islam.
o'clock.
We don't
my
know
time.
that.
So
a lot of them
22
we know have been
22
Christians for
minutes.
2,000 years. They have less of a right to the land than someone whose ancestors, the only thing we know about them is they lived in Latvia or Poland. They're
Right.
Eastern European. How does that work?
They're Jewish.
By what definition?
Who says?
They're Jewish by their
But how do we know they have any
ethnicity.
connection
They're
to
Jewish
the
by
Jews
their
of the,
faith. They're
of the
Jewish
Bible?
by the connection to the language. Jewish by the connection to the
Bro,
Torah.
You're talking about
But how do we know that Bibi, specifically Bibi's ancestors?
what's awful is it's like you motherfuckers threw how many fucking thousands of people out of their homes. You've treated these people like less than human. You've been beating on them. You've been attacking them. You've been brutal and belligerent. You fought these, you've killed thousands upon thousands in wars and this and that. And you haven't even proven that you're rightfully taking this. They haven't even proven this after all the heartache and damage and deaths they've caused. It's despicable.
Here, how do we
Honestly, we should take the land back from them and say, fuck you. You went about it the wrong way, assholes.
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
How do we know if the Prime Minister of Israel's ancestors ever lived?
Maybe I could ask you, how do we know they didn't? I mean,
Well, it's on the basis of the claim that they did that all kinds of things happen. People are displaced. There's a money flow. I mean, it's a big question. A lot hangs on this. It's not some theoretical thing like, oh, did my grandparents do this or do that? It's like, no, we have a right to be here because my ancestors were here. Okay, how do we know they were here?
Yeah.
I'm totally unable to process what you're trying to get at.
How can this
be? It goes back.
How can that be? Because these are questions that we've all asked in our own heads. We've all asked these questions. These are fucking elementary questions. And this motherfucker wants to pretend. I've never even thought of that. I've never thought of it that. Well, dude, you ran for president. You're supposed to be our elite, one of our aristocracy. This never occurred to you? What do you think? We're fucking stupid? Is that what it is? Because now it's condescending. It's like, bro, do you expect us to believe some bullshit like that? I would prefer that this guy just came out and say, yeah, they paid me a lot of money, bags and bags and bags and bags of cash, as opposed to what he is saying.
Jewish people have any land on this planet that should be theirs.
I feel that way about all peoples. I feel that way about Jewish peoples. I feel that way about.
Okay, then you don't mind them having this little sliver
Is there any
of land,
country? Let me
right?
ask you this bluntly: is there any country that European peoples have a right to exclusively?
This is incredible.
I think they have attained their land through conquest. I mean, let's ask ourselves.
Have the Britons attained their land through conquest? No, they've always been there.
The Romans, the Greeks, we've had all these civilizations.
Let's speak. Well, you could certainly say that here. The Romans controlled this, as you know, and they expelled all the Jews
anymore.
from Jerusalem. Amen. I don't want them to control it.
Hope not.
I'm anti-Roman. Okay, we're on the same page.
Okay.
But my question is very simple. Is there any European peoples that possesses the same right to their land that the Jews, including people whose ancestors lived in Eastern Europe,
do we have a right to our land in America?
The Britons, we know, the British people, the Scandinavian people, the Irish people, their ancestors have been there for thousands of years. That's provable through genetic testing. Do they have a right to their land exclusively?
Is anyone saying they don't?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
No one will say they will. And I'm asking you, do they have that right?
And I'm not sure what that question involves, because no one is trying to force them out of their land, of their homes. But here,
wait, hold on.
You have people.
Why won't you answer that?
Who's trying to force the Israelis out of their homes? I mean, really and truly. As many people are trying to force the Israelis out of their homes as here in America, they're trying to force us out of our homes. But in England, they're actually being fucking displaced. Same thing with Europe. And it's like this guy wants us to believe that he doesn't, he has no idea what's going on in the world and what people are talking about.
Question.
I just did.
Oh, so the Irish people have the same right to their land that the
I don't know
Jews
that they have a
to.
biblical connection.
Okay,
but I'm a Bible believer.
Okay,
so that is.
But it's also
a
a principle.
What about people that don't believe in the Bible? How is it that Israel, and what's funny is, you know who wrote the Bible? The Israelis. They wrote the Bible. Jews wrote the Bible. And of course, in their book, it says, yeah, we get all this land. How is it that we're giving out land according to books that groups of people wrote themselves? And in that case, it's like, why don't we just write our own books? I mean, and the Islamists, their book says it's their land. So it's like, who the fuck? It just blows my mind. It's evil.
That is, and you've said
hard
it
to
15
even
times.
Sometimes
put it into
people have land
words.
because they were able to attain it through war. They were able to obtain it when it was challenged.
I understand that. And
then
there's all
how
kinds
is
of
it
consequences.
that-
But we can't say that about the
the
Irish.
world borders
Hold on.
change all the time.
Not actually, the borders of the island of England have
Not
not
the-
changed,
not
nor
but the
island of
governance
Ireland.
does.
Those are just two examples.
So basically what he's saying is Zionism is bullshit. They have absolutely no right to that land. And if they're pushed off of it, that's their lookout. That ain't our lookout. That's their lookout. And if I was fucking Saudi Arabia and them, I'd be fucking pushing them off their land.
So
Yeah.
you've got the indigenous people there. Do they have a moral right to that as their homeland?
And I think they would probably say, yes, we do, because we have ancient
What
history
do you
to it.
think?
Right? What do
I've
you
never
think?
thought about whether
Now
they...
that I'm raising the question, and you've spent a lot of time thinking about the right of
Yeah.
the Jewish people to their homeland, do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
As long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
As long as they can defend it.
But Tucker, here's the point.
Wait a
I'm
second.
telling
Can you
you,
believe this
Wait, hold
guy?
on, hold on, hold on. Now you just flip category. You're the minister here.
yeah, and I'm telling
As
you,
long
there-
as they can defend it.
and you're,
if they can't
you're
defend
not
it, they
allowing
lose
me
the
to
right.
tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical as well as an ethnic and a historical. So you can take any one, but if you add them all together, biblical, historical, and ethnic,
Well,
you have a very
means
strong
diddly
case
squat.
that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years.
You can repeat it as
And you
It's
can
not
also
their
look in the
historic
archaeology,
homeland.
the stones cry out.
Okay.
Have you been to the city of David, for
I
example?
have. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So you know then that
And I love it.
it's an amazing
I
place.
agree.
It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history because
great.
it's stunning.
No,
and
the
they
greatest
still continue.
archaeological discovery in history was the discovery of Troy. It's not of some shithole little fucking desert village. Because, those places have been known forever. Troy was a lost city that was in a story. Like that was discovered in like 1900. That is the greatest archaeological find. This shit in the Middle East, no, sir.
Find
sir.
things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer.
Since
Thousands
Cheddar
of
Man.
years longer.
Cheddar
Stonehenge is
Man.
3,000 years older than any building built by the descendants of Abram in this country. And so it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an
United
island, so we know what the
Kingdom-
lines are.
I'm saying, but are those lines, are those rooted in something other than the historical connection? Well, great, then they should have it. But
And
that's
they have
a
a
question.
right to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think
exactly.
you're
My book
really
said
going
so.
off the
I
trail.
just want to know if these
fuck that
principles
book,
apply universally or if they only apply to the people of Israel. And my answer
yeah.
appears to be just the people of Israel. They're the only ones with these rights. And I just reject
No,
that
I
as a
didn't.
Christian.
I didn't say that. But I'm saying we are talking about Israel. We're in Israel. We're talking about Christian Zionism because you've made some disparaging statements about Christian Zionists. You've apologized for them, for which I appreciate. And now we're trying to define Christian and Zionist. And it seems like we've gone way, way off
I'm
of
trying
that.
to get, as you suggested as a former debater at the outset, I'm trying to get to terms and a common
Right.
understanding of what the words mean.
And the term
And I'm
Christian,
no closer to that than I was when I began.
you're not closer to the term Christian, what that means?
I think it's someone who follows Jesus. And that's
Okay.
my next question.
All
There are
right.
a lot of Christians in the West Bank, and
This dude's a jackass.
there were a fair amount of Christians in Gaza, and some of them have been killed.
There were 5,000 in Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two different churches were hit by the IDF. Christian Hospital was
Yeah,
hit
that
7
German
times by
guy
the
that
IDF. And I don't
discovered
understand.
Troy, that
They were
was
not hit
special.
7 times. There were different,
say.
I know. And one of the times it was a rocket that was shot by Hamas, and all the news agencies reported that the IDF shot the rocket. They
Did
said
the
there were-
IDF ever hit the hospital or the churches?
they did.
Why?
Accidentally, and they apologized for it.
Huh.
And it was very unfortunate.
Oh.
But they also, you got to remember, there were times.
Maybe Germany should have apologized for the Holocaust and all would have been forgiven, right? What it sounds like.
Hamas often hid caches of arms under hospitals.
Were you bothered
Under-
by the fact that the IDF hit Christians?
I'm bothered that anyone got killed in Gaza,
You
but
don't
you know
give a
why I'm
shit.
You're a
bothered?
Christian
This
minister.
dude
here's
don't
the
give a
thing.
You can't say
fuck.
that the Christians are
All he
Islamic
cares
extremists.
about is this
No, but I
And
can say that
I
the
would expect
reason
you to
that the
side with the Christians over the secular government of Israel.
But
secular.
I would look at it even more broadly. I would ask you this. Why was there so much suffering and continues to be suffering in Gaza? It's because Hamas, which could have built a Singapore, built a Haiti. They have a landmass the size of Las Vegas. They built tunnels underneath that are larger than the London Underground, over 500 miles of tunnels. They didn't build it to move people from one hospital to
You know, it's easy for him to say that now, but for 80 years, these people have been under the boot heel of Israel. You know, these people weren't building tunnels before Israel showed up, belligerent, throwing them around, stealing their shit, shooting them, murdering them. They weren't building tunnels. They were living just fine. They were getting her done. They were enjoying their land, enjoying their lives. So, I mean, really, the the factor at play here is Israel, is them buying up land or doing whatever they did and then just moving in and fucking boxing everybody else out. Ugh.
other, one marketplace
This is
to the
an
other, but
unmitigated
to hide
evil.
terrorists, to hide weaponry. And on October the 7th, they went over there and they massacred 1,200 civilians. Massacred,
Who's they?
mutilated,
Who's they?
humiliated them.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
Dude,
Sorry.
who
Please don't.
I'm not going to.
But
ever.
I'm telling you. And
I'm
so
appalled by it. How many civilians have been killed by the IDF in Gaza?
we
can't
don't know.
stand
You know
What's
why
your
we
guess?
don't know?
What's your guess?
Well, the only numbers we have come from this dubious entity called the Gaza Health Ministry. You know who that is?
Well, why
It's
doesn't
Hamas.
Israel have some kind of count on it?
We also know that a lot of the people who were killed were, in fact, warriors. Sadly,
How many kids were killed?
we don't know.
What's your guess?
I don't know. I'm sure it was thousands, and it's thousands
Thousands
too many.
of kids were killed.
Some of the kids who were killed had been recruited to be in the military. Kids as young
Oh, they
as
were-
14
they were
years
terror-
old.
and I'm so glad that he said that shit because children can't consent. If you got 14-year-olds with guns, that's to no fault of their own. No fault of their own. And for that to be the excuse for killing children, it's despicable, to say the least.
Do you hear yourself? I wonder.
I just said that there were kids as young as 14 that were recruited to be Hamas soldiers who were given arms.
How do you
a
feel about the
horrible-
kids being killed?
I think it's horrible.
Oh.
You know what I also think is horrible? I think it's horrible that 1,200 people were slaughtered by
couldn't agree
people
more. I
across the
couldn't-
border,
I
and
couldn't agree more.
252 people were taken hostage. 48 of the 1,200 were Americans.
Couldn't agree more.
And then when
Are all lives equal?
When Hamas could have ended this on October the 8th and given all the hostages up, they didn't, leaving no choice.
You're never going to get me to defend Hamas.
I hope
I'm
not.
not pro-Hamas. I'm
I hope
totally
not.
opposed to slaughtering innocents,
Yeah.
whether Hamas does it or whether the government of Israel does it in much larger numbers. And the reason I'm opposed to it is because I'm a Christian and I believe that all souls are created by God.
I do not disagree with that wholeheartedly.
But I said, how many children have been
war is a
killed?
horrible thing, period. And we don't know. We know that a lot of the numbers were reported
But
by
you said you
Hamas.
think thousands
A
of
lot of
children
the
have been killed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know why they got killed? Because Hamas would gather up the children and put them in the targets. Do you know what Israel does? They send page messages and they send texts to every cell phone in Gaza, and they say, we're going to hit this particular target. They drop.
That literally means nothing to me. That means jack squat to me. It's like saying, oh, you know, if America had just dropped flyers before they fucking bombed Nagasaki, that would have made it okay. Dude,
Pamphlets, and they announce where they're going to hit. Nobody does that.
they're so used to not having to explain their position. They're so used to just shouting people down by calling them anti-Semites that when they're actually cornered and forced to answer, that they have no fucking answer. No answer that is acceptable. It's disgusting. It's despicable. The bullshit, the answers they have.
The U.S. doesn't do that. Israel
So,
does that
what
in
does that
order
mean?
to prevent.
are you
Let me
saying
finish
that-
this. They do this in order to prevent civilian casualties. What Hamas does, they say, oh, this is the target. And by gunpoint, they push people into those various places. And then when people get killed, they say, look, Israel just slaughtered these people, even though it was Hamas who moved them into harm's way, knowing that it was going to put them in a place of danger and death and destruction. And they do that because they don't care. You say you care about life, I care about life.
It's interesting
Tucker,
that
they don't care about life.
I'm not saying that
They
Hamas does. You're never going to get me to defend Hamas. I'm
Good.
I'm anti-Hamas.
Said that 3 times, and I believe it.
Your dig at the United States is very revealing
Why is it revealing?
because your priorities are very clear.
No.
Yes, they are.
No,
yes,
no,
they
no.
are. And as an American, permit me a moment
Okay.
of outrage, because I said
Permit me a moment.
many civilians have been killed.
Yeah.
And you said, right in the middle of your elaborate defense of the IDF's killing of civilians, including children, you said they do a better job than the United States does. That's my country and my government,
It's
which
my
I
country.
consider.
What flag am I wearing here?
Well, I'm asking, why is it
What flag
so-
am I wearing?
Well, that's, of course, my flag as well.
And it's
a
my
US
flag. It's who I serve.
So why the dig at the United States in the
It's
middle?
not a dig
It
at
was.
them. No. You've totally misrepresented
What did
that.
you mean by that?
I did not take a dig at the U.S. What I'm saying
So
is,
the IDF is more humane than the U.S.
I'm saying
military. Do you
no,
believe
I'm
that?
not. I'm just saying that Israel takes steps that we don't take, and no other country that I'm aware of takes to try to prevent. Because no matter what Israel does, they're going to get accused of genocide.
That may be right, and
I'm just telling you that they.
But then
such
let me
bullshit.
ask you on that question.
bullshit.
That's such a politically loaded.
But I
tone.
resent the idea that you think that I'm not loyal to the U.S.
Well, you
or that I
just said.
somehow.
Look, I'm not saying you're not loyal. I'm merely noting what you just said, which
Yeah.
was that the IDF takes greater pains than the U.S. Our military does to spare civilian lives. And I guess my question is, when was the last time the U.S. military killed this many civilians? Do you know?
Well, it could have been Nagasaki, Hiroshima, could have been Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't know the full number.
And I think most Christians would say all of those things were atrocities because innocents were killed in large numbers, and we don't believe in that. And so that's not really a defense, is it?
War is a horrible thing, Tucker, and there are people who end up, unfortunately, being killed that shouldn't have been.
But why,
I would tell
why
you-
is it that Israel is so they're in such a hurry to go to war? 1,000 people get attacked, butchered, raped, or whatever the hell happened to them on October 7th. In Israel, it was like, man, they was chomping at the bit to get in there and start laying bodies low. Children, just laying children low, laying women low. And there's nothing anybody could say short of the president screaming at them to get them to stop.
I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities of October 7th,
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
if they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
What does
Tucker,
that mean, God
I
help
don't
them?
know
Are
that
you happy
they were
that-
14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, What would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to
Not
kill
murder
14-year-olds.
fucking
I'll
a
tell you
bunch of
that.
Let me
children.
ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped,
I
starved,
would
and
not
beaten?
kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I
that
would
you
never make
do-
excuses for killing
but you
children
wouldn't-
either.
And I'm not talking about
He thought that
targeting
was gonna
children. I'm talking about.
get
Told
him.
me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they were working for Hamas.
I'm telling
And
you-
my question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child
It's
has agency?
sickening.
Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't
This
his
is a
death a
sick
crushing
human
If
tragedy?
he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage,
It just went
and the
loud.
only way to save that hostage, I'm telling you, war is a horrible
believe-
thing. It's a horrible thing, and a lot of innocent
I think I'm the
people
one
die.
who thinks war is a
and
horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm
understand.
trying to explain how horrible
As
it is,
soon
and
as
you're
his,
saying that the 14-year-old deserved to
as soon
die.
as
We don't execute 14-year-olds.
You're putting
in our
words in my
Free
mouth that
show.
I don't know
put.
what you're saying.
I
You
never
said-
said
Pops up, I'll
deserve
switch it
to
over.
die.
You won't
Okay.
I
miss
say
me.
there are people who die that it's unfortunate.
Okay.
But I'm saying that you are not giving Israel credit for having done everything they possibly could to a level that, quite frankly, in urban warfare, there has never been a war
I mean
that
to
has been
criticize
documented.
Israel, but it's a foreign country, and I would much rather criticize a foreign country than my own.
Feel free to do that. They can
But
handle
you
it.
pivoted against our country
No,
by
I
saying
didn't
Israel's
pivot
done a
against
better
it.
job than our military
No,
has.
I simply gave you the illustration, and I helped you understand that Israel goes to links that no other country, including ours, goes to in the middle of an urban war, and yet Israel ended up
I heard
with
it was
fewer
pretty bad in
civilian
Mexico.
deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
You said you didn't know how many civilian deaths there were, so how can you say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's
you
numbers,
said you
it would
didn't know
still
what the
be.
numbers are.
We
You
don't.
just told me that. Then
But
how
I'm
can you
saying
say
if
it's a
you
lower
took-
number?
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 24 or 25,000 of those were actual warriors, how many civilians? If you
I think
took
the
all of their
numbers
numbers,
range from 120
No.
to 78. Those are the ones I just read. I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm
those
asking
are-
you. You're
Yeah,
the
and I'm
US
telling you
ambassador.
How
those
can you
numbers
trust
I've not
Israel?
heard,
I
have
don't
not
trust
read.
what
The
they say.
numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come
Most
from?
from the Gaza Health Ministry,
But you
which
said
is
those were
Hamas.
invalid numbers.
I think they are. I don't think that they're widespread numbers, the largest numbers that have been reported out of Gaza by Hamas.
Yes.
Let's assume they're true. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are true, but assume they're true. Let's just take them at their word. Then you still have a lower number of civilians killed than in any urban warfare environment in modern history. Fact.
Bro, I don't see.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
What are you comparing it to?
It doesn't make
To
it any
any
not less
urban
worse.
warfare.
Name one.
Iraq,
Where in
Afghanistan.
Iraq? Where in Iraq? Where in Afghanistan? There aren't many urban areas in Afghanistan. I don't think there was any fighting in urban areas in Afghanistan.
Kabul,
I don't know. Were there pitched battles in Kabul over long periods of time? I don't.
20 years
In Kabul? I don't think.
throughout all of Afghanistan.
But what were those rates?
You're talking about what are the rates there?
Yeah, you
You
just
The number of
he
people who were
literally
killed.
just said that they've killed the least amount of people of any house to house city fighting ever. And then he can't name any of the numbers that have happened in any of the city fights. It's like, dude, why don't you quit fucking saying shit that you don't know?
Uh-huh.
Into the tens of thousands. I'm asking you to.
I don't know the answer. I've never heard
Okay.
of any of this. You brought it up. You said the IDF has killed a lower proportion of civilians in urban warfare than in any urban conflict in
Yeah.
modern history. I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well,
Would you agree
America,
that
the
the-
U.S. military killed more
But
civilians.
would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just
way
once
beyond.
again said that the IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did in Gaza. You just told me that. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
And I'm trying to explain to you that there were extraordinary efforts to keep
You
the
don't
number
know the numbers,
of life.
do you?
I think they were tens of thousands. I'll get them for you.
Well, you brought it up. That's the only reason I'm pushing
but I'm wearing a flag. I work for a country, and you pretended or
man, it
alleged
sure don't seem like
that
you
somehow
work
I'm
for
not
us.
loyal to this, and I'm
Sure
You just
doesn't
criticizing my
said
own
seem
they
country,
did
and
a
I'm
better
not.
job than the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, what are the numbers? And you said, I don't know. So on what basis are you making the claim that the IDF in Gaza spared more civilians than
well
the U.S.
said,
Army and
Touchgrass.
Marine Corps
That was
did
man.
in Afghanistan and Iraq? Why are you saying that? Like, on what basis are you saying that?
From the conversations that I've had with the people who fought there. And I don't have the exact numbers for you, but what I'm trying to help you to understand, and I don't think you're willing to go there, is that there was no desire to kill people indiscriminately in Gaza. I don't think there was any desire to kill people indiscriminately in Iraq, Afghanistan,
So
or for
here's
that
my
matter,
let me
anywhere.
just say, I think, and I know a bunch of people who serve in the IDF, and I don't believe your average IDF soldier wants to kill innocents. I just want to be really clear about that. I don't think most soldiers want to do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them in our country, in Israel, wind up doing that because that's what war is about, and it really hurts them. And I know people who've done it personally, know them really well, and it like wrecks their lives. So, but I don't think your average soldier wants that in this country or any other. The leadership is a different question, and I want to refer you very specifically to a number of speeches the Prime Minister, your friend Benjamin Netanyahu, gave in the aftermath of October 7th, including one in November of that year, when he referred to Amalek. Now, Amalek is a reference, a
Amalekites.
biblical reference, so of course you'll be very familiar with that. The Amalekites were a tribe described throughout the Bible, particularly in 1 Samuel, that obstructed the Jews as they fled Egypt. And God tells Samuel to give the instructions to Saul to kill the Amalekites. And he says, and I'm sure you remember this is in 1 Samuel 15, of course, I know you know it. He says, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the infants, kill the donkeys, kill the camels, kill everything.
It's awful
And
that
Saul spares the king,
I think he just started
and
his
he spares
pre-show.
the animals. And
Psycho
for
Zio.
that,
Okay,
he is
nice.
punished
That's
by
good-
God.
That's clever.
That is genocide. God is calling for genocide of the Amalekites, of Amalek. And the prime minister of Israel, at least once, I believe on other occasions, described the Palestinians in Gaza as Amalek. That's calling for genocide. And you know that.
Man,
I totally disagree.
Tell me then what it
all right,
means.
because
right?
to say that
where's
Israel
he wrong?
was attempting to commit genocide, first of all, that's simply not
I'm
true.
not saying, I'm saying, what is the prime minister talking about? Why would he refer to the Palestinians as Amalek? What is Amalek?
You would have to ask him. I don't know. I know what Amalek is. I do understand 1 Samuel 16. I get all
15.
that.
1 Samuel
It's 15.
I think
But
this
I
is
do
it.
understand.
And it's widely known. So if you say our enemy is Amalek and we are proceeding on the basis of God's commands to us, you are calling for genocide.
Good
Tell me
evening,
how
everybody. You're watching America First.
Booyah.
My name
Told
is
you guys
Nicholas
I'd be
J.
on
Fuentes.
point.
We have a great show
would
for you
nail
tonight.
it.
Very excited to
It's your
be
boy,
back here
which
with
you
tonight
already
on
know.
Monday. We have
It's
a
a done
lot
deal.
to talk about tonight. Lots to get into.
Hell yeah.
Big show. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all
Everything
about
good?
Tucker
The
Carlson's
audio,
interview
everything
with
sharp?
Mike Huckabee. Have you guys seen this?
Oh, we
Or,
just did.
I should say, did you see it before it was taken down?
Oh, they took it down?
We'll get into that a little bit, actually.
Oh,
It seems that the original interview was actually removed because Tucker Carlson made potentially a libelous allegation against the president of Israel, said that he was on Epstein Island. He, in fact, was not, or at least he claims he wasn't. So they actually wound up having to pull it.
no
But
shit.
in any case, there was a huge interview.
We got away
We
with
may
it.
get into that later in the show. I don't think it's that
I think
important.
we saw it.
We're
Most
going to
of
be
it.
talking all about this wide-ranging interview between the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee,
Bam. Hell
and
yeah.
Tucker Carlson. Some very interesting
yeah.
stuff. And obviously, it was a bombshell. The biggest aspect of it that I want to get into tonight is about this claim regarding Greater Israel.
Bam.
And I got to give credit where it's due. You know, I'm not Tucker's biggest fan.
Aren't you guys glad that I played that to warm up for the show? Was that not fire? Hell yeah.
And we have kind of a feud going lately. But I will say, the biggest single aspect of this
He
interview
fucked that shit up.
is that it exposed, I think explicitly, maybe for the first time, the Greater Israel Project.
Yep.
And to his credit, Tucker flipped this whole narrative about Israel's right to exist on its head.
Yep.
And it's something actually that we've discussed on this show at great length.
How
Whenever
are
you
they
talk
going
about
to
Israel,
combat
whenever
it?
you talk about Palestine, the war with Iran, any of this stuff, and specifically whenever anybody criticizes Israel,
Nope.
you get hit with this question. People say,
Let's fucking
well,
go.
does Israel have a right to exist? And then that's typically followed by, well, if Israel has a right to exist, does it have the right to defend itself? And that's typically followed by, therefore, Israel can do whatever it wants. They can genocide people, kill civilians, preemptive strikes, you name it. And we've talked about that actually
Fixing to be
specifically
cooking
on the
with
show last
gasoline,
week.
boys.
What was amazing in this interview is that Tucker actually got to the center of that question, Israel's right to exist. And where does that actually come from? And the answer was very interesting. Mike Huckabee had a two-part answer. He said, in the first place, there's international law, which makes sense. Modern countries and borders and states are established by international agreements, peace agreements after wars, diplomatic conventions. But the big one, and this is what makes Israel unique, Israel's right to exist, they claim, derives from the Bible. There is a God-given right for Israel, according to the Jews, according to the modern-day Zionists. What's interesting, though, about that claim and about that God-given legal right to exist is that it isn't just for the modern territory that Israel controls. It's actually for like the entire Middle East.
From the
It's for
Nile
half
to
of
the
Egypt.
fucking
It's
Euphrates.
for the
That's
Sinai.
insane,
It's for some of
bro.
Saudi Arabia, some of Iraq, all of Jordan.
The Nile to
I
Turkey?
think all of Lebanon,
What?
or most of it,
That's all of it.
right up through into central Syria. And so what's very interesting in the interview is Tucker said, okay, well, if Israel has this right to exist, and where does that right come from? If it comes from the Bible, then who is to say that Israel doesn't have a claim to the whole territory, to the whole Middle East? Mike Huckabee's answer was even more interesting. He said, well, they do have a right to it.
They should take
As
it
a matter
all.
of fact, Israel has a right to everything west of the Jordan River, so that's modern-day Israel and the occupied territories of Palestine. But also, Huckabee seemed to be saying they also have a right to the rest. And the rest is, like I said, all those countries. That's like most of the modern Middle East or something like half of it. And it seemed that very quickly he recognized the problem. He recognized the mistake he made, and he tried to walk it back and said, well, you know, I don't think they're really going to do that, and I don't think they're going to go for that. That's not really in the cards. But it doesn't change the fact that that is actually what a lot of Israelis believe. That's what the founders of the state of Israel believe. There's actually a whole ideology named after this. It's called revisionist Zionism. And they believe that Israel is everything west and east of the Jordan River, everything from the Nile to the Euphrates. And if that's the basis of Israel's statehood, this biblical claim, well, then this is an intellectual problem that Zionists have to deal with when they're defending Israel.
Yep.
Who is to say that they don't have a claim and that they might not lay claim to it or pursue that claim in the future if it comes from the same place as this right to exist? So that was truly spectacular.
Held it hostage with nukes?
And we'll talk about it tonight. This is drawn condemnation from almost all the countries in the Middle East: Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, the Arab League, Organization of the Islamic Conference. This has provoked now an international incident. So credit where it's due.
Good job,
I think Tucker did a phenomenal job. Fantastic job.
Bro, fucking man.
I don't think as good as it could have been. I'm going to nitpick a little bit. But I do think that by itself is a massive
It was
victory
a master
and
class.
a very important development. It's a very important refinement in the conversation about Israel.
It's going to change
because
the
it's
conversation.
a question that needs to be answered. If Israel has this right to exist, what actually does that entail? What are they entitled to in terms of
that they revised
security guarantees, weapons, land, support, all of it? That's a question that needs to be answered by the pro-Israel camp. Now, here's the second thing we have to get into. And I think this was a serious mistake. I don't think this is nitpicking. And this is also having to do with the interview. During the interview, and this didn't provoke as much of a response, but I think it raises an eyebrow because this is a narrative I see everywhere now. And I see it being promoted by some of the most prominent critics of Israel. During the same interview, Tucker raised the question of, and this is again related to the claim of Israel's right to exist. Tucker questioned whether the modern day people of Israel, those who claim to be the Jews, the same Jews with continuity going back to the Old Testament, and therefore
from
that
Eastern
claim
Europe
that was given to Abraham for all this land, Tucker questioned whether the modern day Jews are those same Jews.
We did.
Are they the same people? Is the modern day state of Israel comprised of the same people with the same ancestry, the same patronage, or I should say, I don't know what the word would be for that, but you understand they descend from those people. And then therefore, is this the same Israel? Is this actually the same kingdom they're seeking to establish from the Old Testament? And he said about this, and specifically regarding Bibi Netanyahu, he said that these people that have moved to Israel from Central and Eastern Europe, these so-called Ashkenazi Jews, he said they are from Poland.
Latvia.
He said they're not from the Middle East. They're not Middle Easterners. And so the implication is maybe they're not the real Jews.
And they've killed.
Maybe they're not the real people of the book. Maybe they don't have actually
Think
a
about
claim to
all
the
they've
land.
done already.
And this is a question which I see being raised not just by Tucker, but also by Candace Owens and Ron Unz and by Alexander Dugin and many others in the Israel critical space. This is something you see and hear all the time. They say that Israel is not made up of real Jews. And by real Jews, again, they mean people that come from the Middle East. They mean the people of Abraham and Moses, the people that fled Egypt, the people that established the kingdom of Israel, that were expelled by the Roman Empire. There is this persistent narrative that those people are lost, and the people in Israel now are interlopers. And how exactly they came to identify as Jews, that's a matter of contention. And some say they are Khazarians. Khazarians are this Turkic steppe people from Central Asia that came to identify as Jewish during the Middle Ages. And they settled in Central and Eastern Europe. And this is from where the Ashkenazi Jews came. This is one of the ideas. Other people say maybe it has nothing to do with the Khazarians, but Ashkenazi Jews just aren't Jewish at all.
Yeah.
And it's some kind of elaborate LARP. It's some kind of case of mistaken identity. And not only is this false, this is totally false. This is just scientifically disproven. There has been now a massive amount of literature created on this. There's been a lot of genetic testing and a lot of science. And there's a lot of data out there which show that Ashkenazi Jewish people have Levantine DNA. They do have the same DNA as people from the Middle East 2,500 years ago. So this has been debunked. This is not any theory which is supported by evidence. There's no intellectual rigor there. This is something that was invented about 100 years ago. And now that we have modern genetic testing, which is widespread, this has been thoroughly debunked.
Thank the Lord we have
And not
that.
only is this false, but I think it's a very pernicious and harmful narrative. And I also question if there's a political motivation there. Because if the people in Israel are not the Jews, well, then what does that make them actually? I guess then they're just white people. And I really don't like the implication there because you hear this in a lot of left-wing circles. In a lot of left-wing, anti-Zionist, anti-racist circles, guys like Max Blumenthal and some of the other usual suspects, this narrative is very popular. And they say that what Israel really is a settler colonialist project by white people. If Netanyahu is just some Polish person, well, then he's just some white person from Europe who doesn't belong there. Then he's just another colonizer. He's just another white colonizer that is oppressing indigenous brown people. And you hear this, again, this is very common among the left, anti-racist, anti-Zionist circles, because this is part of their broader narrative, which is anti-white and anti-colonial. So they will say that Netanyahu is just another white supremacist who's lost, just another white supremacist settler from Europe who doesn't belong in the Middle East. And not only does that then become an attack on white people, but it takes away from what Israel really is, which is Jewish supremacy. Netanyahu is a Jew. The Israelis are Jews. The Ashkenazim are Jews. The Zionist project is based on Jewish mythology. And the way in which they treat the native people is based on Jewish chauvinism, which is sourced from the Old Testament. It comes straight out of the Jewish Bible. It comes straight out of the Talmud.
They're doing exactly what they do.
When the Hebrew Bible is telling them genocide Amalek, kill the women, kill the children, kill everybody. And the Talmud says you have to spit on idolaters, kill idolaters, all that sort of stuff. And then in the modern state of Israel, they're murdering civilians, and Netanyahu says that's Amalek, Palestine is Amalek. Well, you can see there is a genetic lineage that goes back to Israel, and there is an intellectual lineage that goes back to the Jews. So I don't like this. This is not true. And this is a deception. This is a false narrative. And I don't think that's innocent. I don't think that's a mistake. That's not an oopsie. So we'll talk more about that. But that'll be our big story for tonight. I was going to talk a little bit about the tariffs. We're probably not going to get into that because we have a ton of stuff to talk about. I do want to also talk a little bit about the war in Iran, which seems to be upcoming. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this tonight because we spent all week talking about Iran. There's really not much more to add right now. We'll talk a little bit about it at the beginning of the show, and then we'll spend the bulk of the time talking about this Tucker Huckabee interview, because it's a big deal. But before we do, I want to remind you to smash the follow button.
Straight into my veins,
smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show.
Give it to me.
Check out our merch store at Fuentes.store. And I actually have, finally, so we have the hats. We have the America First hat. We have the Groyper in Abundance hat. We have the Goyim in Abundance Groyper Intelligence Agency hat.
My fucking veins.
And we also just got this in. We have our Beware of Foreign Influence flag. And it's a little big, kind of cumbersome, but I'll try to show it to you.
Oh, shit. Hell yeah.
So we also have a brand new, we've had these on the store for a long time, but I didn't have one myself.
I love it.
Can we fit it all in the frame?
That's fucking dope,
Get a load of that.
dude.
Isn't that awesome?
Hell yes, that's
Beware
awesome.
of foreign influence. We modified it a little bit. It's kind of funny. This flag is actually anti-Catholic, but I said, we're just going to take it. We're going to appropriate it.
That's true. Well, no, we have an American Pope.
Jews and immigrants. So, the message is really timeless. If you Google it, this comes from the Know Nothing Party, and they said Catholics are ruining everything. But, now Catholics are fine. This is now about Jews. This is about Jews and immigrants. We have George Washington says America First.
Fuck yes, that is so sick.
So check that out. America First.
I really like
that's at Fuentes.store.
It's not
pretty high quality and big. So it's good for a dorm room. It's good for a bedroom.
Very nice.
Fly it outside your house. But we have those. Remember to check out our subscription website as well, americafirst.plus. If you're a super fan of the show, you can subscribe and become a Plus member for $15 a month. And if you want to join the $100 a month club, you get to be in a group chat with me. I was in the group chat all day, just hanging out, talking to people. And I think that's actually a pretty good deal. $100 a month, you get to hang out with me. And it's like an infinite super chat glitch. You can ask me as many stupid questions as you want.
Yeah.
I'm still not nice in the group chat, though.
That's acceptable.
So don't expect like you're going to get a different guy. Like if you send me a stupid super chat, I get mad. If you go in the group chat and you're annoying, I get mad. And honestly, it's crazy. It's actually crazy. Because I go into the group chat in the morning, afternoon, whatever, and I try. Like, I try not to spike my cortisol. I try to talk to you people. And I log in, I go, hey, good morning, what's going on, everybody? And then it's immediately, Dumbest shit you've ever heard, just one after the other. Today, I go in there, I go, hey, good morning, everybody. What's up? First comment, literally first comment, airplanes.
Fucking idiot.
That's what's up. Airplanes. And it's stuff like that. It's almost just like, this is rage bait that AI could never recreate. It's like, it's not even, it's just like, what do you even say to that? It's so not funny. It's so not, it's just pure irritation. I don't even know how you would categorize that. It's just like verbal diarrhea. It's just pure goy slop, pure goy feed, straight from the goyim's mouth. That was literally the first, like I'm drinking my morning coffee, I'm working myself up. Hey, good morning, everybody. First dumbass, airplanes. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for the punchline, like, holy. I tried to, then I locked in, I swallowed my rage a little bit and I was able to have a normal conversation. But like, this is the level of the discourse. So it's a little bit painful at times, but we're working on it. So that's America First Plus. Check it out. All right. Oh, one other thing before we get into the show. Tomorrow, we're going to be starting a little bit earlier. Tomorrow is the State of the Union address. That's at 7 o'clock Central Time. Actually, the speech starts at 8. I'm going to be going live at 7. So big stream tomorrow, State of the Union. We're going to endure it together. We're going to suffer through this together. That'll be at 8 o'clock tomorrow, but I'm going to be starting my stream at 7 Central Time. So it's going to be a little bit earlier. Tune in on Rumble. Okay. With that out of the way, we're going to dive in. First thing I want to talk about is about the situation with Iran. And we've been talking about this for the past couple weeks. It's very obvious where this is headed. You see what is happening. We currently have, according to the experts, 45 to 50% of our deployable air power in the Middle East right now. Half of our, not all of our air assets, but half of all of our deployable air power is in the Middle East right now. And if you go on any of the Newswire channels, you see the buildup. It is refueling aircraft, it's cargo aircraft, strike aircraft, bombers, it's 2 aircraft carriers, 13 missile destroyers. It's a lot of hardware. And it's pretty clear what's up, which is that we are mobilizing for war. Now, as we've discussed over the past couple weeks on this show in great detail, the question remains whether we are going in, when we're going in, to accomplish what and how. Ground power or air power, or both. Is it a regime change decapitation strike, or is it a sustained operation to degrade their capabilities, or is it some kind of narrow, limited strike to get them to the table? And what is the goal? Is it to extract a deal? Is it because we are now set on toppling the regime? There's a lot of questions about this. And I'm not going to actually contribute anything more to that conversation tonight. We haven't learned anything new over the weekend. There's been some discussion. They now say that there may be a third round of talks on Thursday in Geneva in Switzerland. They say that the ambassador from Oman will be delivering a response to America's demands from Iran within the next 24 hours. So it's a very dynamic situation. It seems like there still is some negotiation occurring, or at least there's a dialogue, but not much has changed. We continue to see, again, massive deployment, massive mobilization, and all signs point toward there's going to be some kind of a military action. Again, the question is just timing, mode, and the goal. All that being said, I put this out on Twitter today. It's important to take a step back and really consider the entire situation. I like to say on the show all the time that everything is related to everything else. And I think about what this says about the Trump administration. Because at the same time that we have half of our Air Force in the Middle East, and we have 2 carrier strike groups, we have the Patriot missile batteries and the THAAD systems, and we're moving our military all over the place, pulling out of Syria, moving our troops out of Iraq. we are literally moving heaven and earth here. And the latest is that Trump is furious that our military capabilities are so limited. He wants to go in heavy and hard, and he wants to topple the government in a short amount of time with a massive use of force. And he's frustrated that it seems that we have a limited ability to do that. That however we go in, it's going to be a protracted conflict. There's going to be other additional elements that will have to come into play, like some kind of ground force. And it's going to be very complicated. But you take a step back and consider, at the same time that we have this Herculean effort to overthrow the government in Iran, think about what cannot be accomplished in the United States.
Nothing.
We had 3,000 ICE agents and Border Patrol in Minneapolis. Think about this. How many National Guard did we ever deploy to any of the Democrat cities? I think we had 300 in Chicago at one point. We had a few hundred in Minneapolis. Couldn't even sustain that. So I said this on Twitter. At the same time that half of our armed forces is in the Middle East for yet another regime change war for Israel, we can't even deploy 5,000 National Guard and Border Patrol put together to liberate an American city.
Yeah.
Minneapolis is controlled by Somali scammers working with the Democrat Party machine in the city, working with the shithead radical left communists that are agitating in the streets. Hollywood, the media, they have control over Minneapolis. Who runs one of the nicest states in the country with the best healthcare and education and government efficacy? Who runs that state? Well, it's Jacob Fry, who said, "Get the fuck out of our city, ICE," and it's Tim Walz, and it's a bunch of Africans that are Muslim that shouldn't even be here, and illegal immigrants and communists, like those idiots that got killed by ICE and Border Patrol. That's who runs America. That is a sampling of who runs our country. Who runs Chicago? This militant black communist, Brandon Johnson, and the gangbangers and the burglars and the carjackers and criminals. Who runs New York? Muslim socialist, the fucking homeless that are everywhere, that are in the subway, that are leaping over the turnstiles, won't pay the fare. That's who runs. This is who runs America. This is who runs the United States. And for most of the country's population, that is who runs your government. That is who runs your economic center. Most of the population lives in these Democrat shitholes or near them.
Beautiful, luscious,
in a big Democrat state controlled by a major Democrat city with a huge Democrat state government.
Dick face.
And that's who's pulling the strings there. Liberal billionaires, city machine politics, these deadbeats that work for the Democrat Party, radical college students, Antifa, and the illegal immigrants, the foreigners. This is who runs America. This is where all the tax dollars go. Apparently, that is who controls the major cities. They have veto power over borders and immigration law. And you can't deploy 1,000 National Guard to even one of them. You can't deploy a few thousand Border Patrol and ICE to even one of them. Tried it. Sent the National Guard and ICE and Border Patrol to some of the cities, and what happened? They got bitched. They got resisted. They got shoved out, and ultimately they retreated and surrendered and said, "You know what? You have it." That's what happened in LA with the riots. That's what happened in Chicago when people rioted outside the detention facility in Broadview. That's what happened in Minneapolis. So Trump tried to fight for regime change in our country, where maybe we would be able to walk the city streets at night safely from criminals and vagabonds, where we could have borders, not be inundated with illegal immigrants, so we could fight corruption, not have all our tax dollars stolen by African Muslims that are here on TPS. That didn't work. And Trump gave up after a year. And I say that, by the way, as a resident of a suburb outside Chicago. And I had some expectation I didn't vote, so I didn't have very high expectations, that Trump might actually use our military and security and police power to restore order in America, in Chicago, in LA, in Minneapolis, in New York. And not just the law and order and the public transit, but also on the immigration front, you know, that we would actually have a country. But year in, we don't have it. At the same time, and this is really the gut punch, at the same time that we are being told by our America First president, no, we can't restore order in Chicago, too complicated. We can't restore order in Minneapolis. The protesters are too fierce. We have half of the fucking military in the Middle East again. Really? How insane is that? Go and look at a globe, go on Google Maps, and look at how big the oceans are. How big is the Pacific Ocean? How big is the Atlantic Ocean? And we have half of our military on the other side of the planet, locked and loaded, getting ready for this huge undertaking, so expensive, so complicated, so risky, so unnecessary, to topple another government, you know, because like 10 wasn't enough.
Right.
Wasn't enough to do Iraq, Syria, Libya, Lebanon. None of this was enough. Egypt, twice. Afghanistan. Now we got to go into Iran for the benefit of Israel.
Like another goddamn fight.
What Israel wants, Israel gets. This has been their mission for 45 years. They have been pushing us to do this for the last quarter century. Think about how messed up that is and what they are willing to do. Get Minneapolis under control? Can't do it. Impossible. Too difficult. Tim Walz and Jacob Fry and Antifa? We got to draw this down. We're going to stick to deporting only the criminal illegals. This is too difficult. Oh, but the 1 million man Iranian Revolutionary Guard and military, country and 90 fucking million people on the other side of the planet? Well, it's going to be tough, but no one ever said it would be easy. What? How can anybody claim at this point, seriously, that this administration is America first? I just don't even know how you could say that with a straight face.
There's no way.
And I see it on the timeline all day long because I'm complaining about this. I've been talking about this on my show, on Twitter. I say, look, MAGA is dead. It's over. This was supposed to be a movement for the forgotten men and women. We got forgotten.
Yep.
It was supposed to be about putting America first and redirecting our attention inward towards our problems as citizens rather than outwardly towards the world's problems and other countries' problems.
We have a lot.
Obviously, that's not the case. All you need to do is look at what is happening here. Leaving Minneapolis, deploying to the Persian Gulf, couldn't hack it fighting Antifa, fighting that nurse and the lesbian poet. You know, that was too dangerous. But we're over there fighting Iran's million-man army. All you need to do is look at what's happening. And yet you have Trump's biggest defenders on Twitter every day saying, don't black pill. If you're not on board with this, well, you're not serious. Grow up. That's not how politics works. Tell me then, please, how politics works. I'm waiting for Trump's biggest defenders.
Right. What is it that I'm missing?
Tell me how politics works. At what
Explain
point
it to me.
do
I'm
we
a
get
fucking
what
idiot.
we want? We voted for law and order and borders how many times since 2016?
Since
Voted for that in 16, 18, 20, 22,
we voted for that
24.
my entire life.
We're coming up on 26. When do we get it? When is that even a priority? When are they even going to try? I'm really unhappy with what we're getting. I'm growing impatient. You tell me now I'm not serious. I just don't know how it works. I need to grow up. We can't just burn it all down. Okay, well, you tell me, at what point do we liberate the country?
Yeah. And at
what point do we stop liberating the Middle East and we start liberating us? We're talking about Iranian protesters and Iranians.
And at what point are we justified to complain and to raise hell and to say you've not done your job? Because, dude, they've been telling us, oh, you're just blackpilled, this and that. Don't worry, things will change. My entire life. At what point is it going to be understandable or justified for us to get, possibly, get not peaceful? Put it that way.
Aspirations for freedom and Iran and okay, what about Minnesota? What about New York? What about Illinois? What about California? Can we liberate this? And they say, well, we can't do that. Surely it's possible. Surely. If you could kidnap Maduro, if you could go into Iran and bomb Fordo with a 50,000-pound bomb, if we could have half of our Air Force over there.
Right, when do they use that genius on
we could handle
home?
Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's not even that big of a city. Like, that's a start. How many Somalians even live there? Like 90,000?
80,000, yeah.
So how many are in the Revolutionary Guard? 500,000? You can't deport 90,000 Somalis that are just idiots. They're just like disorganized idiots. They got bows and arrows. They don't even have a legal right to be here. Can't do it. They're setting up an autonomous zone. Renee Good, the lesbian, and the other guy, the male nurse, they're setting up a autonomous zone with a couple of garbage cans in the intersection. Oh my, no, we can't send ICE in there. Too dangerous. Yeah, but let's go and fight the whole Middle East. Again, let's go and fight Hezbollah, the Houthis, the PMF, IRGC, the Ayatollah. They're not even trying. They're just not even trying to make the case anymore. And that's when I say I'm out. I'm for America first. No regime change in Iran. Let Israel figure it out. Let them fight their own war. Let's figure out what's going on over here. We should not even be thinking about the Middle East until there are zero Haitians in Springfield, zero Somalis in Minneapolis, zero Venezuelans in Houston. Now we can figure out, everybody else's issues.
Mm-hmm.
We have the situation in Mexico. The whole country just blew up, cartel violence. We have our hands full over here. So, like I said, I don't really have too much to add in terms of predicting the outcome here. We don't have a ton of new information. And we spent all week breaking down the force posture over there and what that indicates about where it's headed. But at what point do the middle American radicals that served as the base for Trump's movement, at what point do we wake up and realize we are being screwed? We are not getting what we wanted. And we have to get up and say that loudly. We have to let them know. Who? The GOP. Let the Republican Party know. I'm a voter. I'm a registered Republican. I'm not me in particular, but you. I'm a registered Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a white male. I'm a Christian. Maybe I voted for Trump once, twice, 3 times in the past. This is bullshit. This is not what we were promised. We've been fighting this battle for 10 years now, and we still don't have a border wall. We have more illegals here now than we did 10 years ago. That's insane. If anything, the cities are worse after the summer of love with George Floyd. Cost of living, it's all worse. At what point are people going to take their own side?
I wonder if we had never elected Trump, if Biden would have never opened the fucking borders. Like, imagine if we had a Republican or even a Democrat that wasn't Biden, like Hillary. I don't think Hillary would have done that.
Stand up and say, I'm not getting what I voted for. I'm not voting again. You didn't earn my vote. Sorry. You sold me something in 2024. You didn't deliver it. I'm not coming out in 2026.
That really sucks,
now,
man. I've never thought of that.
You can figure out what to do after that loss.
Fuck
GOP
Trump.
has to get obliterated in 26. They have to be annihilated. You got to send them a message. I saw somebody say recently, they said, the GOP is not going to be hurt if you don't vote and they lose their majority. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And we need to send them home. Send them home. hurt the GOP,
That's the only
and let
way
them know
to
in
hurt them.
2028, we need a regime change in the Republican Party. That's the only thing that's going to work for us. I'm not
Yeah.
voting. I'm not working for the GOP if this is the outcome. And I
What's
say
the
that.
point?
I'm a real human being, okay? I'm a real 27-year-old male, paying taxes, white guy, very conservative, partially Hispanic, okay? Full disclosure. Living in Cook County. Okay, I'm an American. I'm a constituent. I'm a citizen. And life has not gotten better for me in the past 10 years. There is not any more law and order. Economy's not better. There's still tons of illegals. I am not satisfied. I'm not happy, and I should be. Democrats get elected, and look at what they do for their people. That's all you need to know. Democrats get elected, and they say, how are we going to make healthcare more affordable for our voters? I know, let's make the Republicans pay for it. Hey, why not, right? That's what Democrats do for their people. Democrats say, we're just going to forgive your student loans. All these college students and young people that voted for us, yeah, we're just going to eliminate their debt. Is that good for the country? Probably not. I don't know. But they do things for their voters. They get elected on affordability, things like that. They say, we're going to make healthcare affordable. We're going to wipe out your loans. We're going to create reparations for blacks. We're going to allow your immigrant relatives or your foreigner relatives to come in under chain migration. We're actually going to tangibly do things for you. Again, I'm not a Democrat. I think that's ruining the country. It's not sustainable long term. But that's just like a taste of what it is to vote for your own interest. And over here on the GOP side, we make excuses for why we're getting screwed royally. They're selling us a war with Iran while they're telling us we can't deport people. Can't deport 1 million people. You're out of luck. Go to war with Iran?
Yeah, but
by any means necessary.
yeah,
Netanyahu,
the
yes, sir.
deportations, those aren't on the menu. Hey, but we can give you a war with Iran. That is possible. We can do that. How about that? You guys digging that? I know the other one wasn't on the menu, but we got this one, and it's kind of ballpark. How about that? It's like you go to buy a fucking car and they keep trying to sell you on the fucking war. Golly.
Right? Am I insane? Deport a mere 1 million people in a year. Impossible. Cannot be done. But the judges, but the Democrats, but the protesters, problems, always problems. Topple a government with 90 million people and 1 million soldiers. No one ever said it would be easy.
But we can do it.
But where there's a
We
will,
have the
there's
best-
a way. It will
we
be
have the
done,
best
Prime
military
Minister.
in the
It will be
world.
done. Like, we are being screwed here. So people should not lose sight of things. The timing is very interesting, isn't it? Pull out of
Ro-Khanna.
Minneapolis, go to the Persian Gulf. Yes, just what we ordered, right? Just what this whole thing was always all about. Isn't that the conceit of MAGA and Trumpism and America First? Ignoring the actual quality of life of native-born people to go fight foreign wars for special interests in Israel? If that's the program, why didn't we just vote for Jeb Bush? Why didn't we just vote for Marco Rubio the first time?
We picked Trump and we got 10 million illegals.
What was the point of
Don't
all
we
of it
feel stupid?
if this is the outcome? Am I crazy? They
No.
can spin it any type of way, but there is no border wall. There are no mass deportations. We don't even have the tariffs. What we do have, Assad is gone. Iran is going. Like that is what we do have on lock. Harvard has a Jewish president. I can sleep easier at night knowing Shabbos Kestenbaum, his conscience will not be offended by the protests against the genocide in Gaza because Harvard now has a Jewish president. Thank God. So anyway, that's the situation in Iran. But like I said, no other major developments. We will be watching that very closely throughout the week. And one thing I will say about it, so I told you on Thursday, there have been these reports, first in the Wall Street Journal, I believe on Thursday, and then today in the New York Times, So these are two different reports, but they both say the same thing. I think in Axios as well, they say that Trump is considering a limited, narrow strike on Iran to extract capitulation. Hit Iran very lightly, very softly, in the hopes that Iran will agree to a deal. And by that, I mean agree to the ultimatum, which is to give up their nuclear enrichment, give up everything, and surrender to the United States. And then, if that doesn't work, then Trump is considering a more thorough, sustained strike, which is aimed at toppling the government. And that would be weeks long. We're talking weeks of heavy, hard air power all the time, blowing up their missile launch platforms, blowing up
And all I hear is
Force,
fucking
air
cha-ching,
defense,
cha-ching, cha-ching as our
government,
fucking,
military
we get
leadership,
deeper and
all this
deeper and
stuff,
deeper into debt.
in the hopes that eventually the regime just crumbles. And that's not really going to work. I don't believe in that option, but that's sort of the idea. The
We
only
just
thing
straight
that's
up
new
don't
is
have the
that
money
Trump
for
has
this
now
shit.
publicly denied these claims.
Like, we're
So
not
this
getting
is being
paid.
said in the
We're
Wall
not.
Street Journal, in the New York Times, I believe elsewhere too, but
Thank
these
God
are some
Tucker's on that,
exclusives.
too.
And they say Trump wants to do this limited strike, and then if that doesn't work, then he's going to do more. Now, Trump has said on Truth Social that is false. He said there are no doubts within his camp. There's no reservations. He said everybody is on board.
Right.
And if we go to war with Iran, then we're going to war. It's not going to be a wait and see approach. It's not going to be a surgical strike and then see what happens. Trump has confirmed it's a deal or it's nothing. We're either getting a capitulation or we're going to war. And as you know, as I've said over the past couple weeks, I don't think we're getting a deal. There's been so much talk in the papers about these negotiations and concessions being made and last-ditch diplomatic efforts.
Hang on, I gotta rearrange this shirt.
Long story short, when you strip away all of the rumors and hearsay and all this stuff, what you'll find is that at the bottom of it all, the fundamental positions have not changed. Washington has a red line on enrichment, and so does Iran. They're just the opposite. Washington's red line is that Iran must give up enrichment completely. No token enrichment, no 3-year restrictions, none of that. Washington is demanding give up your entire stockpile and give up enrichment, and that's it. We can do a consortium in Saudi Arabia. We can export enriched uranium to you so that we can control it, interdict it if necessary, but we are not letting you have that native capability. On the flip side, Iran says, we are never giving up enrichment. It is our right. It is our pride. We're never giving it up. The most that they have offered is that they might give up half of their stockpile of highly enriched uranium, and they might agree to temporary reductions in the level of enrichment. But that is as far as they have taken it so far. Now, if there's going to be a deal, one of these positions has to change. Either Iran is going to have to surrender, capitulate, this is the word that Witkoff used, and they're going to have to just give it up and make themselves completely vulnerable and defenseless. That's one scenario. Then you have a deal. In the other scenario, Washington will have to agree to something less than zero enrichment and a total forfeiture of the stockpile. They're going to have to agree that Iran can enrich at a low level for a period of time in exchange for sanctions relief and monitoring and compliance. Now, this is how you know that a deal is never going to happen. At least this is my heuristic, and I guess time will tell. This is my insight. How do you resolve this equation? The reason that Iran will never give it up is because if they do, they can expect that Israel will go to war anyway.
Yeah.
And that is liable to
They're
happen.
screwed.
Israel will sabotage any deal like that. Any deal that doesn't include missiles and proxies, Israel's going to sabotage anyway. If Iran gives up its nuclear hedge, that just gives Israel the opportunity to strike Iran with impunity. And they might do that anyway. So I don't think it's in the cards that Iran is going to fold. On the other side, the United States cannot accept anything less than zero enrichment because in 2015, when the United States made the initial Iranian nuclear deal, it was the same program. It was sanctions relief, monitoring, and compliance in exchange for temporary reduction in the level of enrichment for uranium. That was the protocol in 15. We'll relieve the sanctions, we'll get your economy going, but in exchange, we need to ensure that you're not enriching uranium past a certain limit. That was the original framework in 15. Now, in the interceding 11 years, Iran has been significantly weakened. Their proxies have been neutralized, their nuclear program has been set back years, and their missiles, well, we don't know the status of them, but perhaps their offensive and defensive capabilities have been degraded as well. So the United States cannot, after 10 years, after all this time and all this fighting and sabotage and everything, with Iran much weaker than they were then, cannot now agree to the same deal that allows Iran to have a native enrichment capability. That will be seen as a strategic defeat. If we scrapped the original deal because it wasn't good enough, and then we went to war with Iran and we bombed them and sanctioned them and did all these things to them, and they survived, and in the end, they got a deal that is as good, if not better, than when they started, then that is a major strategic defeat.
Yeah.
And in the end, Iran will be able to claim victory. We didn't give up our enrichment. We didn't give up our nuclear program. We endured the worst of maximum pressure, the worst that the U.S. had to throw at us, and we got what we wanted. So we cannot come off of that red line. It's never going to happen, in my opinion. And that leaves us to a war with Iran. The question is just when. When and how and in what way, that's the only question. Will there be a decisive air campaign now? That seems less likely because I don't even think that's possible. But will there be imminent military action? That is very likely. The question is just, when does that decisive confrontation occur? Do we hit Iran really hard now, set them back many years in terms of missiles, nuclear, and the rest of it? Do we decapitate the regime? And then maybe a period of time passes where Israel and the United States are backing secessionist groups, anti-government groups of different stripes, liberal groups, maybe different ethnic factions, royalist factions, you never know. Maybe we go in, we degrade their security apparatus that allows CIA and Mossad to come in, stir the pot, and then you get another round of protests. And then we topple. But the point is, a decisive confrontation, military confrontation, is all but inevitable. Again, the question is just, what's the timeline? What's the strategy? What is the level of U.S. commitment? And I guess we'll see in the next 2 weeks what that's going to look like. But that's the situation in Iran. Like I said, we'll monitor that. I do want to move on. I want to get into our featured story tonight, which is about Tucker Carlson's interview with the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. And this is a very important narrative. You might not think it's a big deal. You might not think it's a big news story, but it is a really big deal. Because as I've said for the past couple of years, one of the biggest things that is happening in the world and in the United States is that the American public and the world are turning against Israel.
Yeah.
And maybe turning against organized Jewry as a force. And here's the thing about this show. This is maybe the only show that deals in reality. A lot of people look at my show and they think, oh, that's the Jew show. That's the show where they talk about Jews and they think Jews run everything, and that's the flavor of the show. And I reject this. That is how someone who considers themselves to be objective or mainstream might look at it. I look at it almost in reverse. This is the objective and mainstream show where we talk about the fact, okay, the proven fact that organized Jewry controls the West. That's not really controversial. It's not like it's a secret. They're not hiding it. It's just true. Okay? When you look at the TikTok deal, you see their fingerprints all over it. It's Larry Ellison. When you look at the Warner Brothers Paramount acquisition, their fingerprints are all over it. It's not subtle.
No, it isn't.
When you look at Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, Columbia, again, they're all over that. When you look at who propelled Trump into office, almost everything to do with October 7th. The examples like this are countless. CBS, AIPAC, foreign aid, you name it, ADL, trusted flaggers, censorship. It's all there. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the reason that most shows don't talk about this is because there is a infrastructure in place. It's like a racket where anybody that acknowledges this or talks about it, I should say, in a bad way, gets utterly destroyed. They get flagged as an anti-Semite, a Jew hater,
they get
isolated,
crushed. Their
neutralized.
careers, their lives.
You talk about this topic, you acknowledge this reality, you express that you're unhappy with this predicament or you're critical of it. Maybe you're just a goy. Jews can talk about it all day. If you're a Jew in Hollywood, you can write in the LA Times, Jews run Hollywood. And they do, and they did. And you can Google that. There's an article like that from 15 years ago. But if you're a goy and you talk about this,
not good.
Big problems. So you know how the story goes. You talk about this, you get destroyed. Consequently, almost no one talks about this. So why am I discussing this? Because one of the biggest developments in the past couple of years is that people are starting to become aware of this predicament that we are in. For many years, there was a silence and omerta around this subject because of censorship, blacklisting, cancel culture, whatever you want to call it. You know what it looks like. You know what it is. And now all of a sudden, everybody is aware. Jews run the West. China runs China. Russia runs Russia. Muslims run Iran. Jews run the West. They run America. Yep. They run Europe. And you can't fuck with them because they have all the power. And if you have a problem with them, they destroy you. They use that power to hurt you. And it's only recently that people are becoming hip about AIPAC and Israel's wars and the influence of Mossad and Jewish billionaires and their predilection for their motherland, for the mothership, and the cancellation apparatus, which is a part of it also. Now, how we talk about this issue is almost just as important as the fact that we are talking about it. It's very important, in other words, that we get it right. How do we unring the bell? How do we undo this situation? How do we get to a point where Americans are in control of America? America First patriots are in control of America? Well, we have to identify the problem. And then we have to become conscious of it and organize politically against it. So that's a solution from a very stripped down point of view. Now, to this point, we have this interview between Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee. And as you know, Tucker is one of the most prominent critics of Israel. And many people consider him to be a force for the truth and a force for good. He's bringing awareness to the subject. He's driving this conversation forward. He has a massive platform, a lot of credibility coming from Fox News, and he's using that platform to shine a spotlight on this issue. He's talking about it in a very frank way. So people say he's one of the good guys. Now, to that end, he had this interview with the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, and Tucker really put the screws in him.
Yeah, he did.
As you may or may not know, Mike Huckabee is a Christian Zionist. So from the point of view of his theology, he is literally a religious zealot. Even though he's a Christian, he worships Israel, worships the modern Jewish state of Israel, worships modern Jews.
It's disgusting.
He believes in a certain interpretation of biblical prophecy. He believes that the people that call themselves Jews today have some special role in the end of the world. And so we basically have to treat them as though they are our betters. And it doesn't matter what they do and what they say and how wicked they are and how much they hate us or take advantage of us.
I was thinking about
We
this the
have
other
to
day. It's like they've decided and set themselves up as the supreme, the perfect people of humans. And if anybody stands up or has anything negative to say about that, or has anything at all to say except yes sir, very true sir, they get destroyed. These people want to call themselves the special people. And if you say anything, we have to be contented with them laughing at us, spitting on us. And if we say anything, then we get destroyed. Fuck that. Fuck that. It's like it's disgusting.
look at them as God's chosen people. And even though we have problems with them now, in the end, the prodigal son, they're going to all come back and they're going to be reconciled and it's all going to be good. And so this is their belief. Now think of it. This is actually a very perverse situation when you consider it. Because the purpose of an ambassador is they're supposed to represent our interests to that other country. We have an ambassador in France. They're supposed to represent American interests in Paris. We have an ambassador to the United Kingdom. They're supposed to represent our interests to that country.
Yeah.
But if our ambassador to Israel has a religious idolatry of Israel, well, like, who's this guy working for? Is he working for us or is he working for them?
Yeah.
Is his job to represent the interest of Americans to the Jews in Israel? Well, if he's a Christian Zionist and he literally worships the Jews in Israel, I don't know, seems like they're kind of his boss. Seems like they kind of outrank the government here.
Yeah.
And so in reality, his job is to represent Israel to us. And you can see that in the way that he talks and the stuff that he does.
Damn sure can.
And this is some of what Tucker highlighted during the interview. This is well known in these circles. If you know anything about Huckabee, he's from the South. He's from
He's been there
Arkansas.
over 100
He believes in this
times.
dispensationalist Christian
Fuck this
theology.
guy.
He's from Fox News, like Tucker. And so we know what he's about. Tucker is shining a spotlight on this very perverse situation. It's actually a scandal. And no matter how you cut it, it's deeply wrong and messed up. And you could say that as a first principle, our government represents our interests. And insofar as our constitutionally created representative government hires, nominates ambassadors, secretaries, other personnel, those people, their job is to represent us too. So whether that ambassador is to Israel or anywhere else, his job is to represent our representative constitutional government. It's not an Israel thing. It's not a Jew thing. You could say from a first principle, this is all wrong. Our ambassador to China should represent us. Our ambassador to Japan, Brazil, Mexico should represent us. You don't get some Mexican flag waving Mexican
What's
patriot.
the point of having him? Why
Who is
are
still
we
mad
paying
about
this
the
guy?
Mexican war with America to represent us in Mexico City? No, you get an American.
Fuck this turd.
Similarly, it follows with Huckabee. So Tucker does this interview to shine a light on this, and he does a pretty good job, I think. He is really putting the screws in Huckabee.
He really
The pressure's
did.
up. He's asking intense questions. And one of the best parts of the interview is this. We'll talk about some of the good things and some of the bad things. I think the highlight is that Tucker highlighted he highlighted this arrangement in general, but more than that, he highlighted something which is very interesting about Israel. When you talk about Israel, you can't talk about it like any other country. If we were to talk about Germany and Italy and Denmark, right-wing people like to say, well, those are their own countries. They have their own problems. They should defend themselves. NATO should maybe increase their defense budget. If they're so afraid of Russia, they should field their own army. They should make their own tanks and missiles and airplanes and so on. When it comes to Israel, however, and our obligation to defend them, and when it comes to Israel's conduct in war and diplomacy, people like to say, well, they're special, they're different. And what you tend to hear when you talk about this is, well, Israel has this right to exist. That is their go-to. That is literally their playbook. And I'm not making this up. They have a playbook. They literally do market research. How do we deal with these conversations? Who's
Of course
we?
they do.
Any Jew. How do pro-Israel Jews deal with these conversations when the Goyim ask us, why are we defending you? Why are we fighting your wars? What do we say? Well, the Jews, like a science, they figured out, here's how we short circuit that discussion. We say, well, does Israel have a right to exist? This is how they shut all that down. You say, Israel's killing civilians. Israel's destroying all their infrastructure. Israel's killing 100,000 plus people. They say, yeah, well, but does Israel have a right to exist? And you kind of go, wait, I don't know. Let me think about that for a moment. Because if you say no, then what are you saying? That Israel should be annihilated?
Yeah.
You think that they should be genocided and wiped off the map? I don't think anyone supports that. I don't think I should say almost anybody supports that. In America, at least. I don't think most people would say, yeah, they should all be annihilated.
But just like what Huckabee
bombs.
said, if they can defend it, it's theirs.
I don't know if the answer is no, but you also don't want to say yes, because if you say yes, then it's like, now am I involved in a chain of questioning? Clearly, they're not asking that question in good faith. Well, does Israel have a right to exist? Well, I don't really know what that means to affirm that. I mean, does anyone have a right to exist? Do I have a right to exist? What does that entail? I have a right to exist. You're making me nervous. Can I now kill you? Can I slit your throat because I feel uncomfortable? Is my right to exist limitless? Is it not bounded by anything? Like, how do we think about these things? So it's sort of, but now we're thinking about everything else.
Hopefully I'll have
Whereas
everything
we
going.
were talking about the genocide and the massacre and all these kinds of things. Now we're thinking about this abstract question about natural law. And so they say, does Israel have a right to exist? And you go, I guess. And they go, okay, well, then they have a right to defend themselves, don't they? Palestine doesn't think they have a right to exist. And then you're walking down this path towards, if Israel has a right to exist, then it can defend itself. If it can defend itself, then it can do whatever it thinks is necessary for its security. And maybe that means deporting every Palestinian, and maybe that means killing everybody, and maybe that means a genocide. And they, in a perverted, twisted logic, they get you to this point where you're saying, oh, well, maybe it's okay. Well, Tucker flips that on its head, and Tucker presses Huckabee and says, okay, so he's pressing Huckabee on these questions. What is a Christian Zionist? What is a Zionist? And Huckabee falls back on the old classic. Huckabee says, well, does Israel have a right to exist? I'm a Christian. I'm a Zionist. What is a Zionist? It means Israel has a right to exist. Do you think Israel has a right to exist? And Tucker throws it back on Huckabee, pause, and says, well, what does that mean? Where does this right come from? And now Huckabee is on the back foot and says, oh, well, it comes from international law. And Tucker goes, oh, international law, really interesting. Those things that Israel breaks all the time. Funny you mentioned that. International law. Oh, you mean those things that Israel breaks constantly since they came into existence? You sure about that? Huckabee goes, well, there's these conventions, and there's the Balfour Declaration, and there's this and this. And stumbles all over that answer. And then Huckabee arrives at maybe the more important question, the central question. Huckabee says they have a biblical right to exist. It's a God-given right. Why? Because God told the Jews in the Old Testament, this is all yours. And so that's their promised land. We were promised this land 6 million years ago. So it's ours. Now, we can kill anybody that gets in our way because of that. We were promised this land. Now get the fuck out of the way or we'll kill you. As a matter of fact, we'll kill everybody. We'll kill the whole world because it's ours. Who cares we haven't been here for 2,000 years? We're here to collect. So Huckabee says it's because God promised Abraham this land. Be fruitful and multiply. This land belongs to your descendants. And Tucker points out a problem with this land grant from God. He says, well, actually in the book of Genesis, there is a deed that God gives the Jewish people, and it talks about the specifications of the land. If you say that Israel has their right to exist from God, well, let's talk about God's right that he gave them. Because if you read the fine print, what it says is that Israel is entitled to everything from the Nile River in Egypt all the way to the Euphrates River in Syria. So do they have a right to all of that? If Israel has a right to exist, and its right to exist comes from the Old Testament, well, if the Old Testament says their right is good from these two rivers, from the Nile to the Euphrates, then where does it end? Did they have a right to the modern day state of Jordan and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Egypt? Because if that's where you're sourcing this land claim, then clearly you would have to say that they do. It's the word of God after all, isn't it? It's the inspired scripture. And this is the story. This is from Politico. It turns out that the Arab countries didn't like the answer. Mike Huckabee says, well, yeah. He says, yeah, they do. Israel does have a right to all of that. Israel has a right to all those countries. And Tucker goes, really? Huckabee goes, well, I don't think they're going to take that, and that's not really what they're talking about now. Tucker says, well, you just said they have a right to it. And now, understandably, almost every Muslim country mentioned in this has condemned the U.S. ambassador to Israel. This is from Politico. It says, quote, pardon me, actually, I have the wrong story up. It says, quote, Arab and Muslim nations condemned comments by the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who said Israel has a right to much of the Middle East. Huckabee made the comments in an interview with Tucker Carlson that aired on Friday. Carlson said that according to the Bible, the descendants of Abraham would receive land that today would include essentially the entire Middle East, and asked Huckabee if Israel had a right to all of that land. Huckabee replied, quote, it would be fine if they took it all. It would be fine if they took it all, he said. However, Huckabee added that Israel was not looking to expand its territory and has a right to security in the land that it legitimately holds. Really, they're not looking to expand its territory? So what do you call civilian settlements then? What has Israel actually done other than expand since 1948, since 1900, since 1893? What are you talking about? Israel's not looking to expand. Do you mean like that far yet? What do you mean Israel's not looking to expand? That's all it does. That's all what did they do in 67 other than expand into Gaza, the West Bank, the Sinai, the Golan? That's all that they do. What do you call a civilian settlement in the West Bank other than expansion? What do you call what they're doing right now in Syria when the Assad regime fell and they blew up all their hardware and then Israel just kept going into the suburbs of Damascus and into the Druze-occupied southern Syria? What do you call that other than expansion? What is it when they're bombing Iran, bombing Iraq, bombing Syria, bombing Yemen? What else would you call that? So he goes, well, they have a right to it, but they're not looking to expand. And the little qualifier that he left off is, well, they're not looking to expand to those places right now. But he's effectively acknowledging if they wanted it, he would defend their claim to it. So what is that? And what does that say about our foreign policy? U.S. foreign policy says and dictates we want stability in the Middle East. What is our end game in the Middle East? Well, considering that there is so much energy there, oil and natural gas, our interest is that that region is stable so that commerce is uninterrupted. Trade routes are uninterrupted in the Red Sea and in the Persian Gulf. We want the Strait of Hormuz clear. We want the Bab el-Mandeb and the Suez Canal clear. And we want the oil to flow. And to that end, we want stability. What's more, our real geostrategic interests are now in the Indo-Pacific. Now it matters far more defending the first island chain in the Pacific. The Strait of Malacca is more important now maybe than the Strait of Hormuz. And so we're actually looking to extricate ourselves from that region through collective security arrangements. Same thing in Europe. We want to hand off deterrence against Russia to NATO in Europe. We would like to hand off stability, anti-terrorism in the Middle East to our allies there. And Israel is not our only ally. As a matter of fact, they're not even the most important ally. We're handing off those obligations to Egypt, to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, Turkey, which is a NATO country. So there are other countries in the Middle East. To the extent that we have an ambassador in Israel, he should be in lockstep with our foreign policy, which is we want to end conflicts. We don't want adventurism. We don't want revanchism, expansion. We don't want revision. We want status quo. And so our end game should be we want Syria to stabilize. We want Iraq to stabilize. We want those borders to be fixed and defended and permanent. So in other words, if there are people in Israel, and there are, that have designs and aspirations to go to war with all their neighbors and expand their territory, that is against our interests. To go to war in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, wherever else, to dominate the region, that is destabilizing. That is contrary to our interests. For Israel to be unchained, to pursue regional hegemony is destabilizing. That is diametrically opposed to what is best for us and what we want. And yet, our ambassador to Israel seems to have not just Israel's foreign policy, but literally the most expansionist version of it. Think about that. It's not just that Huckabee is gung-ho about taking Gaza and taking the West Bank, which he is. He says, we shouldn't even say Gaza and West Bank. We should say Judea and Samaria. We shouldn't even say Palestinian. That isn't real. So he not only has Israel's foreign policy in the things they're currently doing, he has Israel's foreign policy in all the things their most radical members want to do in a long timeline. In other words, that would be like if Israel's ambassador to the United States was like some manifest destiny nut job like me that wants to invade the entire Western Hemisphere. That's Mike Huckabee. He says, well, they have a right to take Iraq, the Sinai, Egypt, Saudi, Jordan. They have a right to all of that. And I would support them taking it because it's theirs, because God gave it to them, but they're not doing that right now. So why even talk about it? Why talk about it? What are you doing working for us? Isn't that insane that you're an Israeli partisan? You're a Jewish nationalist? And this is the tension. Are you a Jewish nationalist or are you an American nationalist? Because these are two different nations. And when I say Jewish nationalist, do not mistake what I mean. I don't mean Zionist. There is a Jewish nation. It is transnational. Jewish nationality, feelings of peoplehood, feelings of togetherness, this is transnational. And it is not exclusive to Israel. It's not restricted to Israel. As a matter of fact, it's independent of Israel. Feelings of Jewish nationalism, pride in Jewish identity, Jewish culture, Jewish chauvinism, Jewish peoplehood. This exists in the Jewish community worldwide, in America, in Europe, in the Middle East. And these people are loyal to each other. They see themselves as distinct from everybody else, and they see themselves as exceptional, better than everybody else. And they also see themselves as under siege, So they're at war with everybody else, okay? That's a Jewish nationalist. I'm an American nationalist. Where does America come from? America comes from Europe. America's a Christian country. That's our theology. That's our heritage. What are we influenced by? In Washington, D.C., we are influenced by Rome. We are influenced by Greece. We're influenced by Greek Hellenistic culture. That's the architecture. That's our constitutional system. That's free speech. That's our separation of powers, checks and balances. It comes from Europe. It comes from Hellenistic culture. It comes from the Roman Empire. It comes from Christianity. And Christianity is its own thing. It's distinct, altogether separate from the Talmud and Jewish mysticism and Zionism and all this kind of stuff. We are our own civilization. I'm an American nationalist. I see the influence of Spain, of Portugal, of England, of France, of the Germans, the Irish, the Roman Empire, the Greeks. I see the influence of this on our civilization. That's the civilization I'm a part of. Jewish nationalists have a different story. Ask Joe Lonsdale. Ask Alex Karp. Ask Bronze Age pervert. Ask Bari Weiss. Netanyahu. Their story is enmity with our people. Their story is about how they defeated the Persians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians. And then the Romans took their land, and they hate the Romans that destroyed their temple and kicked them out. And they hate the Catholic monarchs, hate them. Hate the Catholic monarchs that try to suppress their religion with the Inquisition, burning their holy books, expelling them. They hate the Tsar, the third Caesar, the Caesar of Russia. They hate the great European empires. They hate the Germans. They hate the Spanish because of Philip II. They hate the French because of Louis XIV. They hate the English because of Edward. They hate the Romans because of Titus. And they hate the church because they see the church as idolatrous. And so when you see a Joe Lonsdale, he's a Maccabean. He's a Hebrew. He's a Jewish nationalist. And he sees Rome as just another in a long line of empires and peoples and nationalities destroyed by the Jews. And isn't that kind of the whole thing? Do you know what Goyim actually means? It doesn't really mean cattle. Goyim means the nations, the nationalities. The Jews are a nation up until recently without a state, without a territory, a nation, a people, a tribe, here, there, everywhere, it doesn't matter. And they are exclusive and they are their own. We are a nation. We are the nations. They are the Jews. We are the Goyim. We are the other nations. I'm part of the American nation. The American nation is formed out of other nations, discovered by Italian explorers, Spanish, Portuguese explorers, settled by English settlers, wilderness tamed by the French, the English, the Spanish, built by the Germans, the Irish, yes, the Slavs, the Polish, the Czech, Swedish, Finnish, Norwegian, Russian. Okay? And all of our theology, all of our philosophy, our culture, it comes from the Greeks, the Etruscans. It comes from our nations. We are a distinct nation. So Mike Huckabee is on the side of the Jewish nation. The Jewish nation's story, their chauvinism, their exceptionalism, their ambitions for a greater Israel. You know, everybody dreams of a greater whatever, okay? Serbia dreams of a greater Serbia. Russia dreams of a greater Russia. Italy dreams of a greater, they want Slovenia. Serbia wants Kosovo. Russia wants Ukraine. And yes, Israel wants their whole Middle East. Whose fucking side are you on? I want a greater America. I don't care about a greater Israel. As a matter of fact, make Israel as small as possible. Because they are a threat. They're a threat because their Jewish nation reaches into ours. And it doesn't go the other way. The Jewish nation transcends borders, and their people that they count among the ranks are powerful. And they have a vast reach. The Jewish nation reaches into the core of our country, into all of its organs. That's a problem. And they also have their own home base. They also have their own headquarters. That makes them a threat. They've got 300 nuclear bombs. They've got missiles. They've got an intelligence apparatus, and they've got their people everywhere. The Jewish nation reaches into Russia, into Europe, into America. Whose side are you on? You can't be a Jewish nationalist and an American nationalist. You have to pick one. Now, you can be Jewish and be an American nationalist, but that means you need to assimilate. You need to recognize America as your only home. You need to burn the boats. But if you're one of these Jews that has a chip on your shoulder and you're worried about Israel and you're worried about all this other stuff, and you talk about how Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA, you're not on the team. How could you possibly be America first? And this is our own ambassador. Our own ambassador is not America first. He's not even an American partisan. He's not even part of the American nation. Firmly part of the Jewish nation, advocating for the Jewish nation. And that's not what we are about at all. This is America first. This is what our allies had to say about it in the Middle East. His comments sparked immediate backlash from neighboring Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the League of Arab States. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry described the comments as extremist and unacceptable. Egypt's foreign ministry called his comments a blatant violation of international law, saying Israel has no sovereignty over the occupied Palestinian territory or other Arab lands. Huckabee has long opposed the idea of a two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinian people. In an interview last year, he said he does not believe in referring to Arab descendants of people living in British-controlled Palestine as Palestinians. In the latest interview, Carlson pressed Huckabee about his interpretation of Bible verses from the book of Genesis, where he said God promised Abraham and his descendants land from the Nile to the Euphrates. Now, think about it in terms of what is best for us. Like I said, we actually have other allies. Egypt is our ally. Saudi Arabia is our ally. Qatar, the Emirates, Turkey, Armenia. These are our allies. Armenia is a Christian country to boot. What about them? And what about us? What is best for us is that the Middle East is stable. What is best for us is that the militant elements of the Palestinians are pacified so that there can be a two-state solution, and then we can leave.
Yep.
There can be a two-state solution. Israel can make treaties with Saudi Arabia and other countries, and then we can leave. And we can get the oil from Saudi Arabia, and we can get the money in their petrodollar facilities into our economy, and we can focus on other problems. That's what we want. What Israel wants is to take the West Bank and Gaza and then terraform the region. Egypt is mobilizing in the Sinai because they're worried about this, digging tunnels. And Turkey is getting worried. Now they extend their arm into Syria. Saudi Arabia says they won't make a deal unless there's a two-state solution. The Middle East is destabilizing because of Israel's revisionist Zionist ambitions, because of these greater Israel ambitions. And again, our ambassador supports this to the detriment of our own foreign policy. And by the way, this greater Israel thing, it is as Jewish as it gets, and they want it. The revisionist Zionists, going back to the foundations of the state of Israel, revisionist Zionists like Zeev Jabotinsky, who founded the Israeli military or elements of it, they believe that Israel should take all of Jordan. They believe that Israel should be as big as possible. The revisionist Zionists, which founded the Likud party, they believe this also. They believe Israel should have the Sinai. They believe Israel should have the Golan, southern Lebanon. They believe they should have the land east of the Jordan River. They believe they should have it all. As a matter of fact, Israel's contemporary ministers in government believe this. Their national security minister and their finance minister, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, they both believe in this. They have given speeches in front of podiums that depict a greater Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates. So it's not like this is some conspiracy theory or some fringe view. These are the foundations of the state of Israel, and there are contemporary, powerful political parties in Israel. They either descend from that tradition or they uphold it still, and they believe in this project. And that leads me to this other part about Tucker's interview. You know, everything that we're talking about has to do with the Jewishness of Israel. Suffice to say, Israel's right to exist, where does it come from? The Bible. So Israel's Jewishness is really at stake here. What it is, what that means, is it legitimate, right? Where does the legitimacy of the modern state of China come from? It doesn't come from the Bible. It comes from this diplomatic thought in the 70s because of the result of a civil war in the 40s. Where does the People's Republic of China come from? Well, Mao Zedong won the Civil War, and eventually the U.S. made a deal, and that's where it comes from. Now, on some other level, they have their legitimacy from Confucius and from this idea that they are the Middle Kingdom. They're this 5,000-year-old culture.
Pretty much
So
are the main
there's this
culture
legal
of
framework
Asia.
about the current regime, and there's this civilizational framework about their history in this region around this river and all the rest of it. It's, you could say, the Chineseness of China. And the same goes for other countries. Where does the sovereignty of a country like the United States come from? Well, the Revolution and the Constitution and the Declaration and this sort of thing. When we're talking about Israel's right to exist and why we have to defend them, and excuse me, my nose is itching, what makes them special, it has to do with the Bible, as we just laid out. Where does that claim come from? Well, they say that the God of the Bible gave them the land. And even though they weren't living there for 2,000 years, they came back to collect on that. They got kicked out by the Romans, and so they lived in exile as a diaspora for 2,000 years, and now they're coming back. And what legitimized this return to their land? The Bible. So, at stake here is really that claim. If they're coming back to Israel, if they're coming back to this territory and claiming it, well, the question is, what does the Bible actually say? And about who and what people? And this is the part of Tucker's interview that I did not like at all. And I've heard this said a lot in this same conversation. People like to say, well, if Israel's right to exist is built upon this biblical claim, they want to attack the continuity of this biblical people. So if Israel has this right to exist because God told Abraham, your descendants get this territory, and people claiming to be Jews from Central and Eastern Europe came there in 1900 to make good on this, well, some people like to attack the continuity, the through line. And they like to say, well, are the modern Jews really those descendants of Abraham? In other words, are they really the beneficiary of that land grant? We might say, in ancient history, God gave this ancient people this land. Well, now some people showed up and they say, we are those people. And guys like Tucker want to say, okay, well, are you really the same guys? Do you have that lineage? If you do, well, then I guess we have to litigate that. But if you don't, then you have no claim. Maybe you're some kind of interloper. And maybe somewhere along the way, some other people wanted to hijack this and get in the middle of that process and say, well, we have this heritage, we're claiming it, and we're claiming the land that comes with it. And so in the same interview, and sort of along, you can maybe see the continuity here, along exactly the same line where Tucker says, where does Israel get its right to exist? What is that right? Tucker also questions the continuity of the Jewish people. And he says to Huckabee that all the Jews in Israel are Ashkenazi, and the Ashkenazi come from Central and Eastern Europe. That's actually what Ashkenazi means. It means German. And Yiddish is a form of German, or it's I should say it branched off of German at one point in time. And so Tucker says the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is Polish. He's from Eastern Europe. What does he have to do with the Bible? What does he have to do with the people of the book and Abraham? And this is the story from Times of Israel. This is the quote. It says, Carlson also questioned whether modern Jews were the same nation as Jews in the biblical era. Carlson said, quote, God promised this land from modern-day Iraq to modern-day Egypt to this people, the Jews, Abraham's descendants. Who are his descendants now, and how do we know who they are? He said the current prime minister's ancestors weren't from here. Netanyahu on one side, his family's from Poland. They're from Eastern Europe. So how do we know that he has a connection to the people who God promised the land to? And this I didn't like, because as a matter of fact, let us just say this at the outset, it is a matter of fact that the Jews in Israel descend from the Middle East. The Mizrahi Jews, Sephardic Jews, and Ashkenazi Jews, they all descend from the Middle East. How do we know that, Tucker? Well, if this wasn't a rhetorical question and you actually bothered to ask, we have genetic testing. We do have modern genetic testing, which shows that Ashkenazi Jews have Levantine DNA that goes back 2,500 years to the Middle East. How do we know? There's no way to know. Well,
What are you talking
we have
about? That's
science.
what he said. He asked
We
if
have
we could do
genetic
the
tests.
testing.
And these
What is Nick
people do
talking
have
about?
Levantine DNA.
Well, then why
They
didn't
did mix
Huckabee
with
say that?
Europeans. They have Eastern
That's-
European DNA. They have
Bro, he literally spent like 10 minutes asking whether or not they had Levantine DNA. And if Huckabee didn't know, why weren't we figuring it out? Because we do have that. We have the technological ability to figure that out. Tucker spent a good half an hour on this, Nick. Okay? Not sure why you're taking it out on him.
Central European DNA, but they also have Levantine DNA. So these are not a people that are completely separate from Israel. They do
never
have a
said that.
legitimate claim that they are from the Middle East. So to pretend like we don't know or that it's even contestable is not true. And it's almost to the point of a reckless disregard for the truth. It's almost
Come
a
on,
line
dude.
of its own
He didn't do
creation,
that.
a
What are
lie
you
of its
talking
own
about?
type to say, we can't possibly know. How do we know? Are they? Netanyahu comes from Poland.
Dude, he never said that. All he said was, yo, do you know if they have the blood, Mike Huckabee? He said, I don't know. Then he said, well, why don't we find out? Why wouldn't we find that out? That's it.
Okay, and, so what? Anglo-Saxons come from modern-day northern Germany and Denmark. Okay, so what? Yes, people from Poland also came from elsewhere. And some Polish people are native, and some Polish people came from the Middle East. And they are Jews. And to pretend as though we don't know that, to cast aspersions on this, and actually to insinuate that they have no Jewish DNA, or
That's
that
fucked
there's
up.
no
That's
way to
not what
know,
he
or that we
did.
don't know, is irresponsible. And honestly, I think it's a lie. To say this as a rhetorical question, asking, how do we know Netanyahu comes from Poland? It obfuscates the truth. Ashkenazi Jews have been proven scientifically with genetic
That's what he
testing
was
to be
asking.
descended from the Middle East, to be Levant.
It was table stakes, my dude. They could have easily went to their phones and checked, but it was the knowledge that they were working with at the table, and they didn't know that, so they carried on as if, you know, they were that was an unknown question. And Tucker still beat the son of a bitch.
To be Jews. So what are you really getting at here? Don't play dumb and stop asking rhetorical questions. They are Jewish, and we know they're Jewish. And this is something that I see all the time now. There's all sorts of different narratives coming from different places. Some anti-Zionist Jews or anti-Zionist leftists will use this argument. I see Muslims make this argument. They say these people in Israel are Europeans. They say it like it's a bad thing. They say Netanyahu's Polish. He's not a real Jew. Now, how do they characterize Israel? They characterize Israel as another white supremacist colony. That's where that goes. It's Muslim third worldists, leftists, and how they characterize this with that narrative
as though
is
Tucker
they say
was
that
doing it in
Israel
bad
is
faith?
just another example of white supremacist colonialism.
Tucker wasn't saying anything about this, and it was in good faith. Why is Nick impugning or questioning, where he was coming from? I don't
They
get it.
think we don't know any better. They say that Muslim, indigenous brown people are being displaced by whites from Europe. And their Judaism, well, that's just an elaborate facade for age-old white supremacy. And they think they're tricking everybody. That's that narrative. And I see this all day long. They say, those aren't real Jews. Those are Europeans. And what does this do other than serve to vilify white people? Huh? What does that actually do other than blame white people for what Jews are doing? Netanyahu is a Jew. Epstein is a Jew. Okay? Adelson, Ronald Lauder, these are Jews. They're visibly Jewish. They have Jewish lineage, Jewish DNA, and they are part of the Jewish nation. And to suddenly say, oh, no, they're Polish, they're German, now you're just blaming white people. And this is a way of maybe offloading the guilt onto a people we're more comfortable blaming. Haven't white people been blamed for enough of the world's problems? It's sort of like when conservatives used to love blaming white liberals for everything. BLM rioting? No, that's not black people looting the liquor store. That's white liberals pretending to be black. Remember that one? Because we're not comfortable blaming black people for problems. Only white people are ever the problem. Oh, you want to know who really runs the world? It's rich white people. Yeah, it's rich white liberals like Bill Gates. Because we're more comfortable blaming our own kind, our own rich people, our own women, our own young people. Yeah, blame the white college students, blame the white women, blame the wealthy white people, blame the white hipsters or hippies. What does that serve to do other than offload guilt from one ethnic minority to white people yet again? For leftists, for third worldists, for Muslims who can say Israel is a creation of the British Empire. It's a remnant of Sykes-Picot. It's a remnant of the old days of European colonialism. That's all that does, and I don't like that. Netanyahu's not a white guy. Netanyahu's a Jew. Okay? That's one. Now, I hear this other narrative all the time that they're Khazarian. You hear this one? Everybody says, it's really red-pilled. They're not really Jewish. They say that in the Middle Ages, the Khazarian Turks from the Central Asian steppe invaded Europe, and then they became Jewish. Why did they do this? To what end? Who knows? How this happened without being recorded in history? Anybody's guess. There's no rigor here. Nothing matters. Somewhere along the way in the Middle Ages, some Turkic mountaineers, some Turkic riders, horsemen from Central Asia came here, put down roots, and became Jewish. And so they're trans-Jewish. They're like transgenders. Now they're Jewish. And for whatever reason, they were just some minority in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and then got kicked around a bunch and then, I guess, deluded themselves into thinking they're Jewish and decided to create Zionism. I don't even know what the idea is there. But that's the big idea, is that there was a break in the continuity, that somewhere along the way in the Middle Ages, some other people identified as Jewish, and the modern Jews are sort of a construction, a modern construction. And some other group of people engaged in constructivism and said, well, we're Jewish now. We have the Jewish identity. Now we're Israelis. And some people say, no, the really red-pilled thing is that this is the Khazarian Empire. This is some obscure Central Asian Turkic kingdom that became Jewish and has just been living the lie for 1,300 years. And now they're in Israel for some reason. I hear this one too. And once again, you have to wonder, what is even the point of that? And then you realize, who is the number one beneficiary of both of these narratives? It's Jews. Who is the number one? If you go out there and say, oh, Netanyahu's not a real Jew. As a matter of fact, none of the Israelis are. Who's the number one beneficiary of that narrative? Well, it would be Orthodox Jews. Maybe the Lubavitchers. It would be some group of Jews who believe that they are the real Jews. And they feel that they are being blamed for what Israel is doing or what Netanyahu is doing. Doesn't that sort of fit neatly? Tucker always likes to say, well, the problem isn't Jews. That's crazy. Don't talk about Jews. That's anti-Semitic. Tucker says the problem is neocons. Forget about Judaism, Jewishness, the Jewish nation, Jewish... No, nothing to do with that. He literally sat face to face with me and seriously said that Judaism has nothing to do with Israel. Judaism has nothing to do with neoconservatism. Okay? The problem is neocons. The problem is Netanyahu. And Netanyahu is not even a real Jew. He's Polish. Interesting. And Candace Owens says it's Khazarians. Oh, Israel's an evil state, but Israel's all Khazarians. None of them are real Jews. So who's the beneficiary of this? Well, it's all those Israel-critical Jews, all these Orthodox Jews, conservatives in America, that they don't want to be blamed for what Netanyahu is doing, for what Israel is doing. But this is a lie. Like I said, genetically, these people are Jewish, in Israel and Netanyahu too. And maybe more importantly, everything that Israel is doing, it doesn't come from, people say it's these Frankists. This doesn't come from Jacob Frank. This doesn't come from the Central Asian steppe, and it doesn't come from Poland. You know where this idea comes from, that they have greater Israel? It comes from the Hebrew Bible. You know where this idea comes from, that they're going to wipe out all their enemies? That's the story of Amalek. It comes from the Hebrew Bible. In a word, it comes from Judaism.
It all
Where
comes
did Jews
from
get
Jews.
the big idea
The entire
that they can
Bible
kill
comes
everybody
from
that is an
Jews.
idolater? It comes from their Talmud. It comes from their fucking holy book.
So does fucking Moses.
You don't need to invent some esoteric satanic cult. You don't need to invent some interloping other ethnicity. This is who they are. They have the lineage to the original Jews who rejected and killed Christ, who were corrupted, who rejected their own Messiah, and were punished for it by being kicked out of their temple and their land. And all of these perverted ideas, well, that's just the Hebrew Bible without Christ. That's just the law without Christ. That's the Pharisees without Christ. That's where they get the idea that everybody that stands in their way should not be shown mercy or love. That's where they get the idea that they're going to wipe out the women and the children in pursuit of their birthright, in pursuit of their land. It comes from Judaism itself, this perverse, bastard religion that did not accept the Messiah. That's what Judaism is. It is a bastard religion. The Hebrew Bible had its fulfillment in Christ. That's what it is. That's who the prophets were. That's what the mark was on the doors in Egypt. That's what it's all pointing towards. That's what it was all for. That's what they paved the way to have in the end, from Adam and Eve, through Noah, through Abraham, through Moses, David, Solomon, all the way through to Christ. And now it's done. What exists now, what they call Judaism, halakhic, what they call the law, the Talmud, is a bastardization. It's effectively a form of a heresy. So who are we trying to protect when we say it's not those real Jews? I'm sorry, what's a real Jew? The Pharisees that put him on the cross, that's a real Jew. We're supposed to be okay with that? No. I see somebody say, Candace Owen said the other day, she goes, God's chosen would never do this. Hey, I have a news flash for you. It was God's chosen that put him on the cross, genius. What do you think happened there? Calvary, whatever happened there? She goes, God's chosen people would never be this heinous. I'm sorry, did you miss the ending there? Did you fall asleep before the end of the drama of the Gospels? That's the whole story. God's chosen people rejected their own Messiah, their own gift. They traded him for Barabbas. They demanded he be executed and crucified.
Yeah, that's
He
a
was
great
betrayed
movie,
by
by
his
the
own
way.
brother, his own
Barabbas
disciple.
was an absolute fucking crook. He was a murderer, a thief, and they let him out, and he spent his entire life. He couldn't be killed. He couldn't be put to death because the Romans had they had given him a stay of execution. In Roman law, you could not sentence a man to death who had been given a stay of execution for death. So he was forced to live on earth and suffer. He spent like 30 years in some disgusting sulfur mine. Yeah, he had a rough life, that's for sure. And he struggled with the fact that that Jesus died on the cross for him and that he was forced to live out Jesus's life, basically.
And then you say, I can't believe they're doing this well, what do you think happens? 2,000 years without the light of Christ? They've got the Mishnah, they've got their commandments, they've got their traditions, their synagogues, their rabbis, but they don't have their temple. It was taken from them. They don't have the veil, the land. It was taken from them. And they don't have the Logos. They don't have the Christ. They don't have the light of God. So how could it be anything other than corrupted and perverted? And people are trying to go out and say, it's the Polish, it's a white supremacist thing, it's neocons, it's Khazarians. No, this is just these people now persisting. Genetically, they're Jewish. Culturally, they're Jewish. They derive their supremacist ideology, their national feelings, chauvinism from this text. And we have to be very clear about that. No, I'm sorry. We're not going to blame white people for Israel. Not going to happen. And we can't be deluded about the nature of the real issue here. And the reason I say it's an issue, it ties back into Jewish nationalism. When Joe Lonsdale says that young men should look up to Cyrus, the Jewish Messiah, you see this guy has not let go of his Jewish national feelings. When Steve Saylor says that if the Goyim ever found out that Jews were smarter than them, we would come for them with the pitchforks and torches, they have not let go of their Jewish nationalism.
No, of course not.
Same with Curtis Yarvin and his
That's
little
why
lackey.
that's why
Same
they
with
refuse
Alex
to
Karp,
let go
who's
that they're
afraid.
Jews. I figured this out that the chick that I dated, I remember asking her, I'd be like, why don't you just not say you're Jewish and shout it from the rooftops? And that was just, she just, because I'm proud of being Jewish. I'm Jewish. I'm proud of it. I'm like, yeah, but you don't have to like rub it in and remind everybody and this and that. And that's when I realized, I'm like, oh, this is a point of pride for you. You people have convinced yourself that you're so special. You're a part of this super exclusive club, and that you're smarter and this and that. And that's why, and also because they're persecuted for being Jewish, that confirms it in their head. Oh, well, the rest of the world persecutes us, so we must be special. Like, and that persecution, that makes them feel good about being Jewish. Like, it really does. It like confirms it in their heads. You know, really opened my eyes when I spoke to her about it.
Christians are going to throw them out of a window. Okay,
I mean, I
we have to
immediately
be
was just like,
realistic about
oh,
what is
you're
going
just
on
arrogant
here.
as fuck.
And we
I
can't
see.
say that all these people are just Khazarians living a lie, or they're Frankists keeping this
Even at
dynastic secret
19,
that they're a
seemed
cult.
odd.
And we can't blame white people for them either, because that's not what it is. So, in many ways, the interview is very good. In other ways, the interview is deeply flawed. And this, ironically, or maybe not ironically, is Tucker's contention with me. When you see Tucker calling me an anti-Semite all the time, and when he goes and qualifies everything that he says by saying it has nothing to do with Jews and Judaism and Israel, keep this in mind. They want to keep the conversation on Netanyahu and neocons in Israel, and they don't want to talk about the bigger issue here. It's a story of peoples. It's a story of nations. And these things have a draw on us. Our mythology, our story, our parents, our nationality, it tugs on the heartstrings of men. And so to look at our country, which is being influenced and controlled by Jews, by a Jewish class, you have to look at their affinity for their Jewish nation and stop pretending it's all ideological, looking for, ideas to blame. It's the neocons. It's people that feel a certain way. It's this group. And unless we get a handle on that and we promote a version of Jewish identity that is compatible with America, we're not really addressing the root cause here. And I'm not saying that people can't be Jewish. And I'm not saying that people can't embrace their Jewish identity. But it has to be done in a way with some deference to the country they reside in. And if they can't do it, then they can't have power over us. You want to be a Jewish supremacist? I don't care that much as long as you just live far the fuck away from me and you don't have $50 billion to spend in my elections. That's a problem.
I'd feel
and
better
you want
if
to
they
be
didn't have
Jewish
nukes
and celebrate
too.
that and everything? Okay, good for you. But you better put America first. You got to look out for everybody in this country, and you got to recognize this is a Christian European country. That goes every way, shape, and form, not just for the immigrants. I see guys like Stephen Miller, they say, oh, these brown people need to assimilate. No, you need to assimilate, you arrogant Jew. You need to assimilate.
True. Well
Stephen
said.
Miller, with his Jewish wife and his Jewish kids, and all they talk about is how Jewish they are and they're pro-Israel. And Stephen Miller, people want to give him kudos because he's against brown people and black people, telling them to assimilate. Hey, you first, pal, you arrogant Jew. You assimilate. Then we'll talk about the rest of these people. Here's the difference. Illegal immigrants, they're running they're running a corner store. You're the deputy chief of staff. So who's really the issue here?
Good
People
point.
talk about, oh, you know, these immigrants need to assimilate. Hey, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. But illegal immigrants, okay, they're picking berries. They're on a farm somewhere. Miriam Adelson is spending $100 million per cycle. So where's really the urgency? I mean, it's actually a little bit hard to pick, but the difference is one group seems to have a lot more agency and power, and you can never say this to them. And the other group, people have a field day. So those are the flaws of the interview. And I see this narrative being promoted. Don't be deceived by this. Don't be deceived. They do it with Epstein. They do it with Netanyahu. They want to say Epstein wasn't really Jewish. He's a vampire, cannibal, Khazarian. Netanyahu's Polish. He's a dude from Poland.
Oh, I don't want to
What
let
is
nobody.
that?
I say no. He's a
That's
fucking Israelite.
not true.
You're not going to blame
And I
white
think
people
it's
for
a
what that man
very
did.
deceptive narrative.
I saw a
wonder,
black person trying to say that was, look what white people do to white people. I'm like, bro, did you even read one of those fucking emails, you moron? Or are you just that fucking stupid, you sub-Saharan dumbass motherfucker? Like, they did not consider themselves white people. And matter of fact, they literally persecuted specifically white people.
who's really
Matter of fact, I saw a woman the other day that had my last name in there, that had my fucking last name. It was on the Young Turks. I couldn't fucking believe it. I was so disgusted, man.
that? Because it's being promoted. It's being promoted by Alexander Dugin. It's being promoted by Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Ian Carroll, Ron Unz. I don't like it. And it seems very Russian. That's my feeling. It seems very Russian. Seems like the Orthodox Jews like that little narrative. So Americans need to get hip, okay? We need to get wise, figure out what the real situation is. But that's that. We're going to move on. This is a 2-hour monologue, so we got to move on and get into the super chats. We're going to take a look at all this. We'll see what you guys have to say about this. Let me get set up here, and we'll see what we got going on. All right, let's take a look.
Martin Man sent $20. Morocco changes their time zone only for the month of Ramadan to make sunset earlier and fasting easier. Muslims try to trick God just like Jews. Different color star of Rimfran on their flag. Same BS. Sneeko better watch out for these people.
Is that true? Yeah, well, what? I mean, there's better arguments against Islam than that, but that's kind of funny.
Ortho Crusader sent $20. Your Croatian Chicago Archbishop called for the canonization of a Nazi Catholic priest that aided the genocide of white Serbs in World War II. How do you feel about that?
I don't really care about that
Bethmari 77
at all.
Bethmari 777.
It's always these like Eastern Europeans. This Croat said something about Serbia. I really don't care about it. You know, you lose me with that. Who gives a fuck about any of that? Seriously. Serbians, Croats, Bosniaks, Albanians. Okay. I guess, bro. Like, you guys figure it out amongst yourselves. I'm not really interested in that.
Bethmari 777 sent $20.
You guys never had an empire, you know, like I care about Italians, Germans, French. What
Fucking
would the second order consequences? Nigger
doing
thinks he's
that
asking
shit.
a smart question. What are the second order consequences? Hey, idiot, what do you think?
Bro.
Oil and gas is going to get, there will be a smaller supply of oil and gas, so the price will go up, and then you just figure it out. We need oil and gas for everything, transportation, industry, electricity. So then energy prices go up, inflation, upward pressure on prices. Like, holy. I love when people think they're being really smart and they're really dumb. You're asking about the most, literally could not be more obvious if you just thought about it for 3 seconds. If I drop this mug, what will be the third order consequences? Will something happen other than it will break? Like, dude, what happens if you close the oil superhighway of all the oil-rich Arab countries? There'll be less oil, idiot. obviously. What will the second and third order oil prices will go up? Then what?
I
The
know
rest of the
why
prices go
fuck
up a little
it
bit.
does that. Why does it
Okay?
just stop?
Crazy. Bro really thought he cooked. Bro typed that one up. Like, I'm going to ask he's going to say, I love this question. Stupid ass, dumbass. This is when I say you can't just learn everything from books. At a certain point in time, you have to ask a question and figure out the answer yourself, because the answers aren't that hard. Will that affect consumers if oil gets more expensive? I don't know. You tell me. What do you think? What do you know about the Middle East? What do they make in the Middle East? Take a wild guess. Oil. Okay, good. So if there's less oil, will that affect consumers? What do you think? What are the second order effects? What do you think? Goodness, it's not actually that complicated. They're not making semiconductors there. They're not making semiconductors in Bahrain. I hope you know that, okay? Okay, what do you think? You think we're getting wheat from the desert? You think we're getting auto parts? What do you think we get from the Emirates? It's actually crazy. But that's actually crazy. Anyway, so bro really was like, he thought he was cooking. He saw all possibilities. What are the second and third order? Oh, wow, finally. A super chatter after my own heart. Hey, pal, ChatGPT is free. Get a trial. Better yet, get a fucking job. Get a manual
CPP,
job. You
fuck.
should work with your hands. Okay? Better yet, forget it. Forget all that.
He's doing it. He does it because Levin
Absolutely.
did it.
And I'm going to pay $20. What do the Persian Gulf countries export? What books should I read? I don't know, man. Why don't you just read an instruction manual for like something people need to know how to install? You should just figure that one out, you know?
Mike sent $25. Gun to your head, eat a Nashville hot chicken sandwich or answer 3 hours of $20 super chats uninterrupted. Love you, guy.
Okay.
Randall from Recess sent $25. James Fishback.
It's degrading.
Randall from Recess sent $25.
degrading.
James Fishback's comments about adultery were kinda gay, but Pearl is a woman and needs to leave politics to the men. Carrie Prejean is a very nice lady, but let's be real, Mel Gibson should have represented Catholicism at the commission. Also, congrats on the live action My Gym Partner's a Monkey series with you and Sneeko.
Whoa, holy edgy. Don't cut yourself
Ford
on the
Jacoby
edge
sent $20.
there.
This is for a dog named Sassy whose time came today. She was always America first. May she rest in peace. Less than 3.
You know, I'm very sympathetic, but, you know, this is a little over the top. I'm very sympathetic. I get it. You lost your pet. I'm sorry for you, but, like, it's a little over the top. I'm not going to mourn your dog, okay? I didn't know your dog. I'm sorry that happened to you. It sucks when that happens to you. I'm not going to mourn your dog. You know, that's a stretch. I see some pretty out there. Some people say, like, my wife's cousin's neighbor has a problem, pray for us. And it's like, of course, always. But, you know, this is like a stretch. I am sorry to hear that, though. I'm sorry for you. But let's, like, come on now. Come on now.
Matt US sent $20. With the Democrat filibuster and threat of a Democrat filibuster preventing Trump and the Republicans from pushing any major legislation through, why don't the Republicans employ the nuclear option more frequently? Do they just care that little about their constituents, or are there other implications?
Because they are not a revolutionary force. This is what I am telling you. The Republicans and the Democrats are a uniparty. It's life or death for us. It is not life or death for them. We need urgency. We need momentum. We need to make things happen. We need to win. Republicans don't care about winning. Win, lose, it doesn't matter. You pass a legislation, you don't pass a legislation, whatever. I got to win my next election. I got other stuff to worry about. So Republicans and Democrats are basically in a handshake where they're going to prevent anything from happening. The Senate is going to slow everything down. We're not going to pass any legislation ever. You know? So yeah, it just has to do with, I think there's basically an agreement to protect the status quo.
CISO Stitz sent $100. Nick, new to the scene, not the world. Trying to give you money was as hard as navigating the American healthcare system. I understand it's the little guys with the little hats. Dude, we live in a circus controlled by clowns. If they call you a jester, then I am the Joker and the game is afoot. We do not fear, for God is with us, brother in Christ.
Okay, thank you for the big super chat. I
Diddy
appreciate
Sprinkles
it.
sent $20. No message from me. I'm too busy at the titty bar.
Very good.
Jackson 402 sent $20. Sup, brother? What the fuck happened to Elusive Nut? George sent
I don't know.
$25. Cortisol check. Notice that X has become one grifter after the next, attempting to purity spiral, denouncing any and everyone as predators, pedos, groomers for virtue, cloud and cash. The civilizational timeline has reached another milestone for stupidity. Feminism's wrecking ball continues.
Yeah.
Brandon sent $60. Thank you for everything you have taught me over the years. I also appreciate your consistency on the issues, even though it causes many low IQ people turn on you.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. We have to tell the truth. It's not worth it if we're not telling the truth. I could be the cheerleader for the JQ division or whatever. I care about the truth. We have to get it right.
Cameron Gibson sent $20. Spent the week in Chicago on a business trip coming from the South. The architecture and scale of everything makes every southern city look like dog shit. Chicago is America. Love the show.
Okay, holy glaze. The glaze
Ross
is
Creations Broker sent
crazy.
$20. If, tomorrow, I tell the press that, like, a space shuttle full of school teachers will be blown up, nobody panics, because it's all part of the plan. But when I say that one little old possum will plummet out of the atmosphere on a failed trip to Mars, well then everyone loses their minds.
I don't really get the
Anthem
reference.
Arizona Grower sent $20. SC ruled Trump's tariffs illegal. Government collected 150B. Corporations get full refunds plus interest from our tax dollars. We already paid higher prices. No refunds for us, and prices aren't coming back down. Hit once with inflated costs. Hit again when our money refunds big business. What level chess is this? God
Isn't
bless.
it awesome? Yeah, well, and the best part is he just messed it up. If you actually look into it, there is a mechanism to do this. Trump had tariffs in his first term. They're still there. Trump has other tariffs. They weren't even challenged in court. Supreme Court looked at him and said, "We're good." It is because Trump just blew it. He used the wrong vehicle to get the tariffs. And what's funny is everybody in his first term told him, Robert Lighthizer, who was at the trade office in the first term, told him, don't use this. Don't use this emergency economic measure to get the tariffs. It's not going to hold up in court. They didn't use it in the first term. They told him that in the second term. They said, don't use this. It's going to get overturned. He said, I'll take the risk because, we just need to do it. And now it's all bullshit. And now they're just doing what they should have done a year ago, which is do the investigations for the national security tariffs. And honestly, you know what they should have done? They just should have passed a law. Just get Congress to pass a law, implement a 10% tariff across the board. But we blew it. We blew it. And now it's over. So, Trump will come and go. The tariffs go with him. It's over.
Anthem Arizona Grower $20. Fuent and LOG. You have to dissociate with Sneeko. He is now at the wee-whizzing stage.
Oh, I do?
Anthem
Okay.
Arizona Grower $20. The Republic of Kiribati is a 3-hour flight just south of Hawaii, yet exactly 24 hours ahead.
That's crazy. Kiribati is actually how it's pronounced.
An air snake
But
eating.
yeah, that's
Hot
crazy.
Dog Alex sent $25. If you, as a Mexican, get to marry a white girl, then I as a white man, should be allowed to marry either a full Asian or a half Asian with a white mom.
Yeah, that tracks.
Ray Pergroy $20. Gavin Newsom says something based about black people being retarded or whatever, and the right is doing this pathetic attempt to discredit him by calling him racist. Newsom is going to rave Vance in 28.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Crabber sent $20.
Whatever.
Sneeko thinks Epstein ate kids and Charlie Kirk was martyred by Israel. Nick, dude, imagine the conversation that Jeffrey Epstein and Charlie Kirk are having right now, rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
That was kind of
Bugman sent $20. Hey, Apple. Ruby219 sent $20. Ariel Pink talks some mild trash on you for 2 minutes in this censored.tv interview starting at 12:20 saying you're an agent of division and Charlie was off because he wasn't. Man facepalming emoji. He later says Israel didn't commit a genocide.
Yeah, well, Ariel Pink is a Jew, so who cares what he says?
Will Stansel's secret Roy Peralt sent $25. It's funny how you spent weeks debunking the accelerationist Epstein hoaxes and everyone called you a pedo defender, and then 2 weeks later some Redditor tried to shoot Trump because he thought he was a satanic cannibal
Yep.
pedophile. Imagine getting slimed out by the Secret Service because Candace Owens can't read.
Well, and you knew it was coming,
Unwoke
too.
Reply sent $20. Building on Vance is an artifice. Do you view his choice for Catholic conversion as a purposeful design to pull Catholics on the right towards Zionism?
Maybe, who knows?
Subarusale 69 sent $20. Hey Nick, what are your thoughts on the future of BTC and or crypto and the connection to Epstein? Stay dangerous and God bless.
I don't really think there is a huge connection. I mean, it's bigger than Epstein.
CC Red 95 cent $52. This just demonstrates how hollow and wicked you are.
How hollow and wicked you are. I forget about that sometimes. Remember that? Richard Spencer calls me up and says, you are hollow and wicked.
Billy.
That was crazy. Well, we used to be like enemies. You know, he was like, I'm going to kick your ass. Next time I see you, I'm going to kick your ass. That's what he said to me. And then I pulled up on him. Then I fucking pulled up on him in Alexandria. And I was like, are you going to kick my ass? And he's like,
Gonna kick my
"Let's
ass,
just talk."
asshole?
I'm like, yeah. No, but we're cool now. He probably could kick my ass. I'm not. He's way bigger than me. So not like I'm some tough guy. I was with like a bunch of people though. So maybe he didn't want the smoke. I say that like he was afraid of me. It's like he's probably 5 inches taller than me. So, but yeah, he called me. I'm going to kick your, next time I see you, I'm going to kick your ass. You know, I can't be friends with somebody unless we fought. We have to have our first fight. Otherwise, how can we really be friends? If we haven't actually had a fight, how can we really ever make a connection?
Listen, Spencer sent $20. You would make a cute cat girl. A Goem in Abundance
Really?
sent $25. Joel Webber
pretty
has been a
one?
great addition to the conversation. We need more types who are from the church speaking on real issues that white men deal with, Earl. Have you heard of Stone Choir? I don't think they are Catholic, but they cover issues like Jews, race, MLK, feminism, etc., and they are a Christian platform also.
No. I do love Joel Webben, no, but I don't know what that is. Oh, they talk about MLK? Awesome. That's just so 2018. When I see niggas talking about MLK Jr. was actually, it's like, dude, 2018 called. They want their hot takes back. They want their posts back. And honestly, I don't know what that is, but what that sounds like is like cringe. I'm not going to judge. I don't know who they are, but the way you're saying that, I'm not really enthusiastic.
African 22 sent $20. Nick, your inspiration enabled me to quit all addictions and return to the Catholic Church. I attend Mass daily with my dad, earn more, and plan to support my aging parents. May Christ bless you.
Good. Love to hear it. Thank you very much.
Real
God
Mansa Musa
bless.
sent $20. At real_Mansa_Musa. Hey Nick, it's me, richest person in history. While I can't spare much gold RN, I wanted to tell you I'm about to take the act and I'm projected to get a 33, but I'll get a 36 for AF.
Hey, well, good job.
Pragmatic Culture sent $100. Did you hear about Shia LaBeouf terrorizing Mardi Gras goers in New Orleans? He just hasn't been the same since Hondu.
Yeah, honestly, who cares? Thank you for the big super chat, though. I don't know. Everybody's talking about that. They're like, oh, Shia LaBeouf is crazy. Dude, he's so pick-me. I feel like everything he does is just performative. Is that just me? Shia LaBeouf has done so much stuff like that. You're just performative. You got a bag over your head. Now you're a trad cath. You're doing the... It's like... I don't like performative males. I don't like pick-me stuff. If you're crazy, okay, be crazy, but don't be a pick-me performative male where you're like, oh my gosh, here I am tearing up Mardi Gras. It's like a desperate cry for attention.
Muslim Albanians are retarded sent $35. Hey Nick, Catholic Albanian here. You can call us whatever race you want, except Slavs, and I will still love and support you. Also don't engage with those stupid ones who've been showing up on Twitter lately. God bless you.
Yeah, I mean, these like Slavic Muslim Turks are idiots, okay? And the ASU frame mogger, he goes, well, you're Mexican. It's like, bro, if you weren't white, you would look black, bro. You look like an albino towel head. And your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, they probably come from Turkey. They probably come from Central Asia. He goes, we're not Slavs. So sorry. My mistake. Because that was an insult to Slavs. You're a fucking Turk, dude. You look at this guy, he's like, I'm whiter than him. It's like, yeah, you have fair skin. You look albino. Your ancestors were fucking riders, dude. They were Cossacks. They're fucking Turkmen, bro. And you're Muslim. And you're Muslim. And you bow to a cube. And you bow to a cube. All those gains, all that looks maxing, isn't that shit haram? Isn't that shit haram anyway, huh? Brushing your teeth with a fucking stick, and then you go and kneel for a cube? All hail the magic conch. Get the fuck out of here. I'm Irish. I'm Irish, pal. I'm Irish. We're as white as it gets. I'm Italian. We're Romans. We were Romans, and yeah, I'm Portuguese. Who you think discovered this bitch? Huh? Well, you were towel boys. You were towel boys for the Sultan, bitch. You were a T-boy. You were a little pleasure concubine for the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. Meanwhile, we discovered this bitch. Portuguese discovered this shit. Italians, hey, it's in the name. America, where do you think that comes from? You think that's Albanian? You think that's Turkic? I don't think so. So he's talking in Albanian, being Muslim and shit. It's like, brother. You know, here's the difference. Clavicular, pure Irish phenotype. Braden Peters, that's a good American name. New Jersey, that's a real fucking American. Real Irish, real white, real Gaelic. We're Gaelic. That's America. That's white. That's Catholic. You? I don't know, pal. Go find some Ottoman Sultan to pleasure. Get out of here with that. Oh, I'm whiter. Look at the phenotype. So that's all that matters. If he had a darker skin tone, he would look like Sneeko. He would look like one of Sneeko's homeboys. So anyway, no, but he actually seems like a chill guy. Well, you know what? He seems like a chill guy. His sidekick is a Jew. Why didn't anybody tell me? That's crazy. Dude, the sidekick is a total Jew? Who didn't tell me that? Anyway, no, but I really don't have beef with him. I just said clavicular mogs him. He took it personally. He cortisol spiked and crashed out. He's like, I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I'm not a stupid Turkman. I'm actually really smart. It's like, dude, it's not personal. I was just kidding. He seems chill. I have no enemies. I'm low cortisol. I have no enemies. I'm a wholesome chungus, okay? It's Lent. The Pope told us to be nice. I have no enemies. It's just banter, dude. Relax. Holy cortisol spike. It's just banter. But Clav does mog. Number
Gavin Pepper
one.
Jack, she sent $75. Great work tonight, nigga.
Thank you.
David Joe 101 sent $20. Remember in Breaking Bad when Walter White threatened to kill his wife over the phone because she was being investigated and it made her look innocent? That was a good scene. Unrelated. Pray for Lex.
I just liked it because he called her a bitch. I know the whole theory that he was trying to exonerate her. I choose the interpretation that he just meant it. Like, that had to feel so good. You know, everybody was waiting for that. You have always been a bitch. It's like, dude, so true. I can't wait to use that one. I can't wait to call my wife and call her a bitch. And then when I get home, I'm like, wait, the cops weren't there? Oh, I didn't mean any of that. I was just trying to help you. That's got to be my new go-to. Whenever I need to piss somebody off, I call up my interns. You always were a fucking bitch. And then they pull up and it's like, oh, I don't know. I thought you gave the distress signal. I thought the cops were there. I didn't mean that at all. I was just kidding. I was trying to help,
David Joe
actually.
101 sent $20. As Mongol video today, my Iranian viewer send me this. At 2655 says Americans should be in the street supporting Iran. I told you how he edited out your expose of Tucker and Dad. Best litmus test.
I like Asmongold. What's with the division? Why are you trying to divide us?
Joe at 86 sent $200. I used to be friends with John Doyle in middle school to early high school. Now it's hilarious watching you go after him. You are the true stress test of who's legit and who doesn't have it. Take care.
Really? You knew the big Doyle head? Thank you for the big super chat, John Dorkel. Yeah. He's funny. He's a funny little guy. But I appreciate the big super chat. Yeah, I mean, he's just like, again, he's a Shabbos goy. Yo, John, are we really doing another MLK video? I heard a Jew needs his lights turned on. I heard a Second City bureaucrat needs someone to turn his lights on and off. Can you get on that? Thanks. But, he had such promise, but then he wanted to cuck out.
Josh Allen 1 sent $20. Thoughts on San Francisco? Surprised you haven't been here yet.
I was there very briefly. I was there for just a very quick meeting recently. That's going to sound like, okay, I do it to myself. Not with Peter Thiel, with somebody. Other people live in San Francisco, okay? I went out there last year, and I was literally in and out. Pause. I was literally in and out of the city for a meeting, and it wasn't with any tech people, okay? But yeah, I just went there. I didn't see anything. Didn't see any of the city, anything like that. So I functionally have not been there.
Nick Fuentes sent $20. Well, I think we should send more foreign aid to our greatest ally, Puerto Rico.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was so into the Bad Bunny thing, and then it dawned on me, wait, he's Puerto Rican, bro. Mexicans hate Puerto Ricans.
Yeah, they do.
So everybody was like, oh, you only like that because you're Hispanic. It's like, I'm Mexican.
Yeah, that's
Mexicans hate Puerto Ricans. In Humboldt Park, it's war. It's war. So I like Bad Bunny in spite of the fact that he's Puerto Rican.
Wizard Groper sent $20. Hey Nick, I'm a 20-year male nursing student hoping to become a CRNA, just below anesthesiologist. I've been watching your show since early December, and thanks to you, I've woken up to the sickening scam that is Trump/the Republican Party. My entire understanding of politics and the world has changed. You're the
Great.
man. AF.
Love to hear it. Thank you.
Sent $20. Do you love Candace more or less now that Alex Jones revealed her as Big Mike Jr.?
Very funny.
G36
Very
sent
good.
$30. To the guy who keeps talking about ultrasound, piss off. Without it, my son's heart condition would have never been found and it would have killed him. Thank you, Nick, and God bless you.
There you go. Get an ultrasound.
Big Nick Ballsack sent $20. I'm 35, an MD for a PE firm in the South, and in charge of hiring for a group. I only hire white what I believe to be grow-hypers. You don't give yourself enough credit. This Jewish critical movement doesn't happen without you.
True.
My boys, my wife, and my 64 years / dad don't miss an episode. See you in FL or O this fall?
Love it. Yay. Maybe in Ohio. Maybe we'll be in Ohio. You never know. If you see me out in Ohio, say hi. And if you see me in Florida, I'm a talkative guy. Okay. Let me tell you, I'll tell you that for free. If you see me in Ohio, say hi. If you see me in Miami, I'm a talkative guy. No, but I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, look, the movement is you guys. Me, I'm a freak. I am, it is what it is. I'm a shut-in. I'm a hermit. I don't leave the house. Everyone hates me. Okay. The movement is you guys. Honest, this is a moment of humility. Everybody says, you're the movement. And like, look, I am the sovereign of the movement, clearly. I'm the brain of the movement. I'm the soul of the movement. I am the leader. I am dear leader. And that's on Hitler, that I'm the leader. But we are the movement because I'm just a guy. We need 1 million me's. We need 6 million me's. We need 6 million hard-hitting, white-ass niggas going hard as fuck in everywhere. Finance, tech, government, all that stuff. Academia, it's about a nation. It takes a nation of millions to hold them back. It takes a nation of millions. So that's how we have to think. We have to think globally. But I do appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's all about them groypers. With, maybe I'm the engine of it. I'm the shot of espresso to get the goyim going in the morning. If you love America first, you don't love Nick Fuentes, you love your race. You love your people. I'm just a shot of espresso to get the goyim going in the morning. So, yeah, but I'll see you out there.
Nick Fuentes sent $20. Do you have any privacy issues knowing Candace Owens' Canastral project?
Honestly, yeah, it started to freak me out. Once she said that astral projecting doesn't come naturally to everybody like it does for her, I was like, wait a second. Is she in here right now, Candace? How old are you? Where are you? Are you a boy? Are you a girl? I'm playing Phasmophobia. I'm doing Spirit Box. Candace Owens, what room are you in? Little inside joke for my Phasmophobia gamers. Yeah, dude, seriously. She starts turning lights on and off. She's kind of watching me when I'm getting changed. Candace, stop. She's using her powers for evil. She's watching me in the shower. Candace.
Abazi12 sent $20. Do you believe the Trump admin is a bigger failure?
All right, you can look.
Abazi12 sent $20. Do you believe the Trump admin is a bigger failure than the Biden admin?
Yeah, I do.
Merblon 1738 sent $20. Hey Nick, last week I asked an ignorant question about Murdoch. I did a proper search and got my answer. Thank you for pushing us to continue to educate ourselves. I appreciate you and your show.
Hey, I'm glad to hear it. Good for you. Congratulations.
Pop Leon sent $20. Might as well cite the Talmud if you use theory from gay Jew tranny Dr. Hirschfeld and the definition from the DSM, which could diagnose you for your anti-Semitism, to say the Mossad Shama wasn't a pedophile. The Greek properly translated extends through adolescence. But stick to your guns and point them the right way.
Huh? I'm sorry. I zoned out. Might as well cite the Talmud if you use theory from gay Jew tranny doctor and the DSM to say Mossad Chomo wasn't a. I'm not even fought. That is just the most retarded thing I've ever read, and not even worth the
Iranian
effort.
broker sent $25. Happening canceled because the shitter is full. Another win for nothing ever happens, Chud.
You see that? That's got to be fake.
Pop Leon
Come
sent
on.
$20. It won't matter though. Bring someone to clean up your stain. Also, Slavs and my Croatia
Oh,
specifically
here
were
we
the bulwark
go.
of Christendom against the Ottomans according to Papa Leo X. Shut it, Beaner.
And there it is. Seething Turk roach.
Hoffman Show sent $20.
Seething Slav monkey. Hey man, listen, what do you want, a fucking banana? Like, relax. Hey, you're not you and you're hungry. Have a banana. Have a banana. Have a banana. Here, have a banana, stupid. Have a banana, Slav monkey. You're not you and you're hungry. Cortisol spiking. Here, you need the potassium. If you give a Slav a banana. They would blame Jews if you slipped on a banana peel. Wait a second, who's leaving all these banana peels everywhere? Then you see ASU frame mogger. Well, sorry, he's a Turkman. That's you. That's all the Polish people.
Hoffman Show sent $20.
That's
W
all
Show,
the-
W Clav, W
That's
America
all the
first.
Slavs.
El Yoder next to fall. Puro pinch mesa. Chingatupu to Madre El Maro and El Yo Gur. Lamnis Bolas.
No, I don't speak Spanish, but thanks.
Mike sent $25. Gun to your head, eat a Nashville hot chicken sandwich. Our answer 3 hours of $20 super chats, no break.
Okay, well, we heard that
Zerhoff
one
sent
already.
$20. Filipino Haitians Muslims be like. Allow me to tell you why your country is not Christian and white and why I and my brown friends deserve to live here. Christian Albanians are white and George Washington was part Albanian if you didn't know.
That's crazy. Well, look, and I love Sneeko, and I don't mind that he's Muslim, but it's always this, like, he's always agitating. It's always got to be, it's never like, hey, I'm a Muslim over here. I'm just, hey, I'm doing my thing. It's always like, America was never Christian, and America's not white, and nothing's white, and nothing's Christian. It's like this ceaseless challenge against our identity. I'm not trying to start a fight, but it's like, look, you're here. You're in America. This is a white Christian country. Well, but John Adams said, yeah, it's a secular government. It's a Christian nation. That'd be like going to Turkey and saying, well, it's a secular government. Okay, but it's a Muslim country of Turks. And that's why 100 years later, they're re-Islamizing it. That's okay. So it's this ceaseless hostility, chip on the shoulder, axe to grind. It's always attacking Christian identity, attacking white identity. And, I love Sneeko, but I don't agree with that approach. And here's why. He wants to say, Goyim unite. We have to focus on the Jews, but then he's always attacking us. You notice that? It's always America was never white. America was never Christian. They're in Times Square, which they shouldn't be. And then it's always an attack on the West and Westerners. And then you say, hey, man, you're a fucking First of all, you're American. Why are you with these towelheads? And you're like, oh, you're a towelhead? You're a fucking guest. And then they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, it's one struggle, right? I don't know. Is it? Is it one struggle? You are here as an allowance. This is not a Muslim country. There are no Muslim roots here at all. How many of the signers of the Declaration were Muslim? How many of the people of the 13 colonies were Muslim? How many people that settled the frontier, built the factories, the railroads, how many of them were Muslim? Sparingly few. It's not in the DNA of this nation. So you are here as an allowance. It's basically an historical peculiarity. Honestly, it's because of the Jews. Why are you here? The Jews brought you here. And because we are gracious, we're not militating against you, but take the victory. Fucking relax. I don't go to Saudi Arabia and say, hey, this isn't a Christian country. And as a matter of fact, I don't go to your neck of the woods. I'm not in Egypt. I'm not in Saudi Arabia. I'm not in Turkey. Egypt isn't under the control of the Muslim Brotherhood. It still is an historically Muslim country with scholars and imams there, and it's kind of the cultural center of Islam. Okay, but it's a secular military junta. But no one would say it's not a Muslim Arab country at this point. And I don't go there and try to fuck with everybody and say, whoa, we all want to fight Israel, right? So I don't like that approach. You can't have it both ways. You either got to be a Muslim of discretion, or, it's going to be a triple threat match. And I don't want it to be, and it's got nothing to do with Sneeko as a guy. Sneeko's a good guy, good friend, but it's Ramadan, and it's like suddenly the cube turned on. These people all got activated. It's like, me and Sneeko are getting along really well. And, I still do. There's no beef at all. But dude, Ramadan started. What happened? These niggas aren't eating or drinking. The cube turned on. And now they're all activated. So now every day they're giving dawah. They're giving, keep the fucking dawah. Okay? We don't want the dawah. This is the United States of America. Keep the dawah. Keep the fucking sticks that you brush your teeth with. Aren't you supposed to be on your Hajj right now? For crying, you want to go over there and do it? Knock yourself out. Go on your Hajj.
Zerkoff sent $20. Filipino Hadians Muslims be like.
But in New York, different ball game.
Mugcake Chud sent $20. Thoughts on the new Minions movie coming out July 1st?
You know what? I really hated the second one. I'm not going. I really hated the latest Despicable Me was trash. Despicable Me 4 was utter garbage, unwatchable. It's like a TikTok. It's a bad joke. What was the one with the brother? That was really good. I liked Despicable Me when he visited his cousin or his brother. That was actually excellent. But the latest one they did, absolutely horrible. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Literally unwatchable. I almost got up and walked out of the premiere showing of it in theaters. That's how bad it was. And I didn't like Minions 2. You know what? Maybe I'm thinking of Minions 2. I didn't like Minions 2 either. I didn't like Minions 2. I thought it was dumb. So they're really getting away from the formula. Despicable Me 1 was good, 2 was good, 3 was good, 4, trash. Minions 2 sucks. I don't know. They lost me. Withhold your ticket. Withhold your ticket. How many movies are we going to see? So I'm not going to buy a ticket. We have to send a message. I'm not purchasing
Francesco
a ticket.
sent $150. Can't watch. Replay gang. In the hospital for massive oral loss. It's bad. Zion Don is in the next room. He's still recovering. He's in a full body cast. His accountant is there. My doctor called me a faggot this morning.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, thank you for the big super chat. What happened? Did your boyfriend beat you up? Was that a lover spat after you confessed your love to your best friend with that gay super chat? What, did he kick your ass for some reason? Hey, well, I appreciate the big super chat. I hope you have, I'm really on your case now. No, you're a good guy. I'm just teasing you a little bit. But thank you for the super chat, buddy. Get well soon.
Sam White 545 sent $20. I came across one of your earlier speeches in your career that was given at the 2017 Social Contract Writers Workshop in D.C. Like the closing story, 2 weeks in the barracks and not hired cause, Lebanon emoji.
Oh, yeah, the Leadership Institute thing. Yep, good
The old
times,
update
son.
sent $20. Someone I'm very close to was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer back in October. After finishing his first round of chemo, his test results came back and was declared cancer-free.
Wow, I'm glad to hear that. Good for you. God bless.
Nick Fuentes sent $20. Sorry for your loss, Nick. R.I.P. Mencho.
Very good. Thank
Luke
you.
Smith 0602 sent $20. Poop. Competitively opaque sent $20.
Awesome.
Asmon Gold so base lately.
He's been on fire. He's
His
a good
Artifice
dude.
sent $20. Ashkenazi mitochondrial DNA has significant European influence. Ashkenazim as a whole have 40% Proto-Italic influence. Some 2/5 of Ashkenazi are descended from the same 4 Roman converts.
Well, I'm not familiar with this article. I have to read it. But if you look at all the studies, they all say significant Levantine. It's not that, maybe not every Ashkenazi Jew is a Jew, but most of them are.
Dark X Wolf 17 sent $20. Airplanes.
Okay.
Sam White sent $20. I came across one of your early Void Groip sent $30. Tyler Oliveira has been lately dropping some banger videos about welfare-addicted and occupier Jews. Their behavior is only creating more anti-Semites.
So I've been told.
Shavery sent $20. Can someone tell Varys that his 15 minutes of fame are up and it's time to do his laundry? How can you expect to be considered wine and you can't even wash your clothes? Must be because he's Muslim?
Is he doing that? I don't know. I haven't been I only watch Sneeko, Clav, Myron. I only watch the niggas.
Shadow 408 sent
the real ass, white ass niggas, not the niggas with the Jew as a the Jews got to star David out. Like, what are we doing?
Shadow 408 sent $20. Can you please tell the brown clown to stop leeching off you content? Zerka also seething after being called a Slav monkey.
Oh yeah, whatever happened to Zerka? I haven't seen him in a minute. Who's the Sneeko? Come on now. Don't, he's actually making money off of that. Isn't that crazy? He reviews my content for views. Kick pays him for that. They won't pay me. It's actually crazy. But you know what? God bless him. Where's my fucking super chats? He's making money. Every viewer that watches his stream because I'm on it, he's making dough. And then he guilt trips me. Hey, where's the gifted subs? I tell you, Islam is here to conquer. That is what they do.
Chicago Groiper sent $30. Do you think China would attack Taiwan given that a lot of our naval power is in the Middle East?
No. They just had a big turnover with their military leadership, and they're having problems of their own. I don't even think they're prepared for it. So I think they're waiting to see how it plays out. And that military shakeup, it might push that timeline back a couple of years because Xi Jinping just sacked a good percentage of the military leadership.
SSF 181818 sent $25. Open up wife applications. I want to deal with you.
No, you don't. You don't even know.
This dog hunts 988 sent $20. Stay down, Lil Ninja. Watch on the constant. Thanks, Lil Bruh. My mama's people from Lombard. Spent a lot of time there about 23 years back. Snapdog and beef sandwich. Wank. Goem International Allied.
I don't like when people say sandwich. I think that's retarded. But Lombard, yeah. Lombard's a lot of Muslims, isn't it? That's where they have that Kawa house, which I've been to. What else? They have some good Italian delis out that way, I think. There's one that everybody raves about. It was okay.
There's a seafood place here in Orlando called Lombardi's. Pretty fire.
It was okay.
I mean, like they sell frozen, or fresh seafood on ice. Why that came to mind, but
what's really good out there? I'm trying to think. Well, you know what? Why would I tell you? I don't want to see you there. But yeah, shout out Lombard.
Josh Gonzalez sent $20. The chat needs a Nicholas search function.
Okay, yeah. We
Money
talked about that in the
$25.
chat.
I love when you go on your MAGA's dead rants and liberals start reposting your clips attacking Trump, but then you drop the honest / funny truth of women, mothers, whores, and nuns. They begin to call for you to be kirked. Us Mexicans won't allow it. P.S. You're definitely top 5 influential PPL in Chicago. Mexicans love you.
And I love Mexicans. And I love my Mexicans. Shout out Little Village. Shout out Pilsen. I love Mexicans. Shout out Melrose Park. Cicero. I love my homeboys. Yeah, well, I'm just double dipping. I rage bait liberals. I hope bait liberals. I just bait. That's like, it's kind of a no-brainer. You just shit on Trump, infinite engagement glitch. Like, okay, what are we doing today? Shit on Israel, shit on Trump. How about let's double up, Shit on Trump, infinite engagement glitch. Why the fuck not? And then you rage bait them by attacking women, infinite engagement. It's a video game, bro. As as Sneeko once said, life is kind of like a video game, isn't it? As Al Sneeko, what do they call him over there? What do they call those guys? The Grand Mufti, Sneeko, said, life is kind of like a video game, isn't it?
Samuel sent $20.
So yeah,
Hey,
it's
Nick,
kind
today
of
was
like
my
a
birthday,
video
so here's your
game.
cut. I wore my Wang shirt to work on Friday, and some of my Gen X coworkers liked it and said they like you. God bless.
All right, sweet.
Kieran sent $40.
Epic.
Why do you think Huckabee agreed to this interview? Just like Cruz, don't you think their handlers would prevent these interviews?
I'm sure that Huckabee thought he could do it. Maybe he thought that he would step up to the plate, and now the Jews are unhappy with him.
Foles 4 sent $25. Tucker Carlson's allegedly visited the White House today. Laura Loomer responded by mentioning Tucker 24 times today alone. Holy crash out.
Holy cortisol. Laura Loomer is insane. And she's working for somebody. She's working for Mossad,
Clint Eastwood
I think.
sent $25. Do you have any more book recommendations? Bill O'Reilly's Pinheads and Patriots was fantastic. Real eye-opener.
Okay.
You should do the foreword for the updated version when it comes out next year.
Great, thanks.
HLF Mexican HLF Palestinian sent $150. Protestantism is to blame for the existence of Christian Zionism. Protestantism is to blame for Israel.
What are we doing? Thank you for the big super chat, bro. Jews are to blame for Israel. Jews are to blame. What are we doing? Why? I mean, I agree with what you're trying to say there, but why are we blaming our brothers here?
NJF is right about everything, sent $20. Sonny is always ankle biting you anytime you debunk Islam. This race traitor isn't smart enough to make something of himself, so has to grift sub 98 Browns. You're 100% correct that you lose your white card if you convert to Islam. I hope he's got a couple of Italian uncles who will slap the shit out of him for being a cuck.
Not other
Me too.
people that make
It's so
excuses for
crazy to
them.
see a guy brainwashed
like,
like
no,
that.
wrong
You're
people.
Italian, you're from New Jersey, and you're doing this cube thing. You're dressed up in the garb. What the fuck is even that? And you do lose your white card. If you're getting colonized and conquered by Arabs like that, forget it. Forget it. That's like coal burning. That is the spiritual equivalent of burning the coal. You know? And I have the same reaction to that. Imagine you come home like in Goodfellas when he comes home with the suit. Mom, look, but he's wearing a thobe. Mom, look.
Oh, God.
You look like a fucking gangster. Well, I guess why is she Jewish? That's not a Jewish was. But yeah, it's the same story. I don't like it. I don't like it. You're dead to me. As a white man, you've lost your white card. You want to go and fuck around with packies and mud slimes?
After early 39 sent $20.
Sorry.
Got my AF hoodie and my Nick Fuentes is right about Israel t-shirt. Love them both. Took a selfie in the t-shirt, posted it and got a lot of heat. Told them to F right off. Peas, your new suits look great. Hair on fleek as always. Are you bringing back the beard?
No, I'm probably going to shave it. Some people really like the beard, so I just want to give them a little taste, you know. Some people really fuck with the beard. So before I shave it off, I just wanted to give a little preview, you know. But I'm going to shave probably tomorrow. But thanks. Yeah, careful with the hoodies.
Got Groypat sent $50. I called myself a leftist before I started watching your show. At first I only agreed with you on Israel, but as time went on I realized that I felt the same as you. Black fatigue, immigration, hookup culture, etc. I've watched other right-wing shows, but none of them are as relatable or as captivating as you. Thank you for doing this show. Less than 3.
Thanks. Goth Groypat. Oh my. Okay. Be cool. Chill. All right, chill out. No, thank you for the Goth Groypat. I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with your game. No, but thank you. I'm glad you liked the show. That's crazy.
NYC Grow Hyper 1 sent $20. Israel's right to exist comes from the Holocaust guilt first, the Old Testament second. I'm young and ascendant in NYC. What institutions should I infiltrate?
Go to college. Go to college, nigga.
Russ will send $25. Is Western news reporting that Iran declared that any act of aggression will trigger a massive multi-level response? What would happen if the trigger would fire everything Iran has into Israel? And then, if Iran would immediately surrender unconditionally, would Trump destroy them anyway, after Trump started it?
We talked about all this on Thursday.
Samsung 65432 sent $20. Jews being God's chosen is abrogated with the arrival of Christ, and Muslims believe then abrogated with the arrival of Muhammad PBUH. Why should 4 billion combined have to accept theology of 15 million?
Amazing.
Grand 4547 sent $20. W show, W haircut, W American hockey.
Thank you,
Kencon
yeah,
sent $20.
W.
Tucker doesn't understand that even the Samaritans are assholes. A Hebrew who is non-Jewish named Julianus Sabar slaughtered the entire Christian population of Bethlehem. Byzantines fucked them up, now the living Samaritans are trafficking Eastern European women creating same DNA as Ashkenazi.
So true.
Pro Hyperbals sent $30. Possible live coverage for Fishback versus Donalds? Thanks for all you do. God bless you and stay safe.
Has Byron Donalds agreed to it? If he agrees to it, of course I'll stream
Not
it.
a Qatari agent sent $30. Imagine being some Negros Shibu and throwing trash out of your car like normal, then all of a sudden the 7th most powerful man in Chicago pulls up beside you in his convertible and tries to explode you with his mind.
That's funny.
Lee Morty sent $50. Can I have a signed hat?
No.
Alex Pacheco sent $22. God loves you.
Hey, thanks. I know that. Thank
Sneeko
you.
sent $20. Happy Lent Brothers.
Hey, what's up? Happy Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak. Goobadoo. Yabadoo. And that's on cue, brother. Happy Ramadan. I'm sorry. That's so rude. But you know what it is? This is what they do. They pretend to be all nice, then they trash your religion for 3 hours. Happy Lent. By the way, America was never Christian. What? No, but hey, happy Ramadan. Ramadan. Mubadoo. To you too, brother. Fuck yeah. Yeah, Ramadan. Otherwise known as skipping lunch. Otherwise known as big ass breakfast, big ass dinner. But you know, it's actually really hard not to eat lunch today. Like, dude, I do that every day, bro. Coffee, look it up.
M325.
No, but I'm just, wow. Hey, no, we love you, Sneeko. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Happy Ramadan.
N325 Dindin sent $20. Rest in peace, my granny. She got hit by a bazooka. I think about it every time I hit the hookah. Kaboom. Kabloo. Kaboom.
Okay.
Kevin Lincoln
thanks.
Nelf Beyonce sent $100. Trump endorsed a sub-5 nigga mayor Kevin Lincoln for Congress in Cali. We have an organized Groyper resistance. Peep the email. Saluting face emoji.
Brother. Okay. Thanks
Peter
for
Wish
that.
question sent $100. No message.
Thank you for the big super chat.
Samson65432 sent $20. Mark Levin twice called Trump the first Jewish president to his face. Second time was on podium and he ritually humiliated him and Trump noted. Trump is a Jew via Jared Kushner.
Yeah, I know. I saw.
Bog Walker Groyper sent $20. Were the Dead Sea Scrolls forged to make it seem like the Masoretic text is older than the Septuagint?
Yeah, because look who discovered
Captain
him.
Price 17 sent $30. Yo, have you heard the two Russian rappers that are blowing up everywhere right now? Hail Belarus, hail Russia, hail Ukraine. Slop monkeys take over. Derek
No.
Jetter sent $20. Ash. Jews are only 20% Levantine. They are not European because of their significant Mina. Another reason they are not European is because they hated Europeans so much that they rarely had mixed with them. Even Mina Jews are minority Levantine. They are inbred Larpars. Palestinians are the Judeans.
Oh, please.
In Just American 03 sent $20. Do you have a take on what's happening in Mexico?
No. No, I don't want to get killed by the cartels. But I do think that we should go in there and restore order. Could you imagine if Mexico was safe? It would just be like infinite vacation. Imagine if Mexico was safe, we could colonize Mexico and then just like be digital nomads. Everybody with money could just move down there for dirt cheap and live stream. Wouldn't that be crazy? Honestly, move down to Mexico, weather's great, brutalist architecture, food's good, cost of living is dirt cheap. Who wouldn't? So yeah, I think we should just carve that out. U.S. colony.
Dark Bernie sent $20. Do the
Go
Palestinian
further.
Christians with Jewish ancestry have an equal claim to Israel? They never left the land but get shut out and persecuted because they converted?
You should ask Huckabee.
Drewster sent $20. Any opinion on Jersey? There's a massive community of Jews in Lakewood, New Jersey that abuse the
Huckabee
welfare
for
state and charitable
sure.
orgs to make bank.
I know.
If you've ever heard of Cars for Kids, 100% of the money they raise is funneled into the URAW Foundation that sends Jewish kids on trips to Israel, Jewish summer camps,
Okay.
and even
First
funds college.
time? Yeah, I didn't know that. You're telling me for the first time.
Lee Zeldin's burner sent $20. Are you familiar with Lee Zeldin from the EPA? Jewish and head rabbis go to the agency and place a mezuzah on his door. Not sure that's ever been done before. His cuts are bad for the U.S.
Okay.
UC
Thank
Vader
you.
sent $100. The force is with you, young Nick.
Okay, thank you for
Sledge
telling
11
me.
sent
Thank you for the
$20.
super
W Church
chat.
8. W Armenia mentioned. Armenia emoji.
Yeah.
Rope Max Air sent $20. Nick, my dad's a black man and my mom is a white. Should I neck?
No. No, you're just black. you
Roxy
know?
sent $50. Fuck
Okay.
Muslims and fuck Jews. And actually I mean that. Even it kills me. Putting you onto my evangelist
Kinds of things that we eat and breathe and
shit.
drink and see.
Cut short.
People have got to
bitch.
start to radically begin
Son
to
of a biatch.